Cheryl, are you good with Zoom?
I am great.
Ooh, love it.
Great. I like it.
Let's go. Good evening, everyone.
It's right now.
Doesn't feel like evening. Does it feel like evening?
It does.
Welcome. Stop. Welcome to a special meeting of the City Council of the City of Palos Verdes Estates. Today is June 10, 2026, and the time is still 6:30 p.m. Before I get going with some further comments, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for that. Would the filling in city clerk please provide a roll call?
Councilmember McGowan,
Present.
Councilmember Quinn,
Present.
Councilmember Lozey. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Lazaro,
Here.
Mayor Kemps.
Grateful to be here.
Mayor Kemps, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Speaking of grateful, let's keep going with some thoughts. We're grateful that you've chosen to spend some of your precious time with us tonight, and we look forward to hearing from all of you. Tonight we're complying with new state legislation that modified the Brown Act, requiring remote participation technology in public meetings. This requirement begins officially on July 1st, but we're using this meeting as an opportunity to allow all to refamiliarize themselves. See, and I knew that was going to happen.
I fixed it.
He turned on his laptop with his speaker on. To refamiliarize ourselves with Zoom and the interaction of all that. And sorry to bring back all the COVID memories. Thanks for your patience with any technology challenges or glitches. Hopefully there won't be any because George is here and Cheryl are here, and so that probably is going to go perfectly. On the meeting format, I want to treat this one more like a workshop than a council meeting. Most of you are familiar with going to council meetings. They're very formal. We have 3-minute speakers. We'll do all that, but I want it, each speaker will be allotted a full 3 minutes when they speak, but council should feel free to be collaborative, able to dialogue briefly with questions of speakers, everyone treated fairly, and this should be a conversation more amongst neighbors, not just a listening session for us, because I think that'll get more done. Quick thoughts. I'm not going to go over much history. I just want to say, for those that supported PF and for those that did not, thank you both. And I say that because each group provided energy, enthusiasm, guidance, and strong opinions around preferences for what we now have the opportunity to jointly craft and finalize together. And we wouldn't have that opportunity had we not been through that experience. So after all, our role as elected council members is to serve your will, not ours, and to seek a solution that we can all be proud of. I anticipate collaborative compromise on a direction that supports the city's fiscal sustainability going forward. This meeting agenda calls for communications from the public first. Please feel free to introduce your thoughts and concerns during this time. Staff has a brief presentation, and after this, we'll move to public comment. Through that process, we need to hear from you. As you share with us what your goals are, please know that my own focus as mayor is to bring our city together in a fashion that supports an 85% passage rate on a replacement parcel tax for Measure E. As you know, 66% is the minimum passage rate for a parcel-led tax, for a council-led tax, and we must make a decision relatively quickly to provide guidance to our city attorneys for a ballot measure that may be submitted to the county in early August for this upcoming November election. We have the opportunity tonight to consider establishing an ad hoc committee for further communication and staff direction. This meeting is also openly agendized to discuss alternative revenue options, as well as the parcel tax, should you or the council wish. So, on that note, let's proceed with public comment. If you haven't yet submitted a comment card, please do so. If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand and we'll pray that somebody sees it. Just kidding. And again,
How do we see who's on Zoom?
up there. It's just going to magically work. It'll all go beautifully.
Well, here's a peek.
So to those that are on
Like that.
Zoom in which we cannot see your names also, welcome and thanks for logging in.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a quick comment? Because it just occurred to me when we were relearning Zoom.
Yeah.
I just want to take a moment to thank staff. We had a lot of staff step up and help. There's a few of them back in the other room, all sort of relearning Zoom after a very long day.
Can we have a photo of that?
I just want to, we all had a lockdown. Oh, that was a bad word, during the lockdown. But we knew what we were doing, and we've been relearning in the last 48 hours. So I just want to thank Cheryl for stepping up and being our city clerk tonight, and Cindy and Brian, who stayed late just to make sure we knew what we were doing. So thank you to all of them.
So I'm sorry I didn't catch you first. Did you want to go through your brief presentation first?
That would make sense.
And then we can go to public comment and talk, yeah.
Yeah. George, if you're ready. And it's very brief, but it's just it's a reiteration of what some of the mayor's comments. Is it up? There it is. Okay. So we are looking for Measure E replacement, and more importantly, the path forward for the city. You can move to the next slide. Can you, Max? There you go. Next. So we're looking for 5 things tonight. We're going to take just, if anybody doesn't know, a very brief look back in time. We have some funding scenarios that we'd like to get some input on and direction from the council. We have a concept to do a community-wide survey, which I'll talk about in a minute. Staff is requesting an ad hoc committee due to the timeline and ability to streamline this process. And then finally, at the end, we really would like to walk out of here with council direction. Next slide, please. Really quick, if you don't know, Measure E was passed in 2018. It was a parcel tax dedicated solely to provide approximately $5.1 million for our police department. It expires at the end of the next fiscal year, also known as June 2027. So the 5.1 million, you've seen these numbers in various forms, so I'm not going to bore you with them. Right now, our police budget, the one that was just adopted, that will start on July 1st, is $8.7 million. That means that $3.6 million from the city's general fund, and general fund money is the most important money that we talk about in a city. It's money that we can use for anything. We had to take $3.6 million just to sustain our current police operations. Another factor that's contributing to all of this, has had a lot of discussion, is our UAL, and that's our unfunded pension liability. So on top of what the city's required to pay as part of their pensions for staff, we had to pay an additional, it rose to $2 million this year just to keep that pension pool balanced. There are mechanisms and movements that cities have made in the past to pay extra into that. The council has a policy to do that when they can, to bring down that ratio and free up that critical general fund dollar to be spent on whatever is needed. And lastly, the adopted budget this last fiscal year that we adopted for next fiscal year is an operating deficit of $1.7 million. We streamlined that as much as we possibly could. In fact, last night, council gave direction to remove $200,000 from the tree trimming budget. So really, our operating deficit today is that we're projecting for next year is $1.5 million, give or take. So just wanted to hit those real quick. So we have a very narrow window to act. June 2nd, Measure PF failed during the election. Today's 8 days later, June 10th, we're having this discussion. The mayor mentioned that by August 7th, we need to have everything to the county to put a new measure on the November ballot. I don't have that date in front of me. But we're really targeting July 28th. That's our last regular city council meeting of July. That gives us a little bit of time, 9 days, to get everything together. So, you know, it's really important that we move quick and efficiently and collaboratively. And as a reminder, it will take 2/3 voter approval to pass this. Next, please.
And Carrie, I'm sorry, but just to clarify, my understanding is there are no other consolidated elections until 2028. I just want to clarify, maybe the city attorney could answer this. There are no consolidated elections in the county until 2028.
After November.
Yeah, I believe it was March of 28 was the
Yeah.
next consolidated. The costs associated with a special election are upwards of $300,000 to $400,000, possibly more. That's what we've been quoted in the past. For discussion's sake only, staff is suggesting 3 scenarios. The first, at $8.7 million, is directly tied to our adopted police budget. So yes, it maintains current police services. Yes, it would address the operating deficit. As I mentioned, now it's down to 1.5. And it would free up an additional 1.9, or now, if I'm doing quick math, 2.1, in theory, of that critical general fund money for other operations. And I think we wrote that down below: pension liability, storm and sewer improvements, fire safety, weed abatement, tree trimming. Again, this is all for discussion's sake, but I just want to make sure it's very clear that at the $8.7 million, we would not have an operating deficit, and nor would we have a little bit of what I like to call breathing room to work. Then it goes up from there, 9.7 and 10.7, and you can see the corresponding changes across the thing. Okay, next slide. Listening to residents. So again, given the timeline, we did look at doing another poll, and it was $25,000, and quite frankly, we didn't think it was the right thing to do. So we're doing a meeting like this tonight. After this meeting, I'm hoping to walk out of here with direction, and we would like to do a community-wide survey, put it on our website, and really ask the residents what they're looking for. It won't be, what the data people say is scientific, but hopefully it will point the council in the right direction of what this city is looking for. Obviously, social media and email to get the word out, and then the council has an option to do another town hall meeting if they would like. Okay, next, please. Lastly, on this, staff is requesting an ad hoc committee. So it's quick turnaround, and I think that it will help streamline. We've got a few council meetings left before the end of the year. We've got people unavailable, but mostly we're looking for 2 council members to be directed by the council to go out and talk to stakeholders and solicit input. Tonight's the first start of that. Evaluate what they hear, provide recommendations on the preferred measure structure, and then coordinate with staff ahead of time of all council actions. The council will still have the last say on anything, but it really, really helps staff, given this timeline, to have people to work and collaborate with and bounce ideas off of. And so there you go. That sums it up. I think that was hopefully a pretty good tee off. And
Do you
I
have
will.
the polling slides or no?
What's that?
Do you have the existing?
I can bring up the existing the previous poll at any
helpful.
time tonight if you'd like.
Okay.
The last poll. It's about a year old. It's about 10 months old.
Maybe we can hear public comment and then see that. and
Sounds good to
talk
me.
it. Awesome.
Okay.
Yep. All good? Thank you. Our first, and maybe notable speaker, Mark Soroyan.
Thanks for the opportunity. I think the general view I have is that our city has both a revenue problem and a spending problem. Parcel tax addresses the spending problem. I think the big disconnect on PF was that it created a lot of extra revenue, but it really wasn't directed in any way. That was the problem with it. I think most people have less a problem with the price tag than they did with the lack of guardrails, okay? And I think that if we craft something that spells out where the money's going, I don't think you're gonna have a problem getting your 66 or 86%, which we need to get, because I think that Save Prop 13 is highly likely to pass, so anything we do needs at least 66%. So what we need for a tax to pass with those kind of numbers is we need to funnel the money to priorities that we can all agree on, or 90% of us could agree on. I don't think there's anybody in the room that doesn't respect our police department. I don't want the sheriffs here. I've lived with the sheriffs for 25 years. We have a way better police department. It could be run a little bit differently. That's a discussion for another time. But the patrol officers are wonderful, okay? So I think number one priority, obviously, is funding the police department. Second is the sleeper here, is this, you alluded to, is the pension debt. Pension debt is the equivalent of a cancer on our balance sheet. It's $2 million a year that we could use fixing storm drains and turning the goats loose and all of that, okay? And the third one is repair, not building new stuff, repair of our existing infrastructure, fixing the city hall that our consultants have told us is fixable. And I think reasonable people can get in a room and dicker over what percentage of this new money is going to go to these different priorities. But I think if you just pick priorities that most people in this room would go for, you will have no problem passing a new parcel tax. Just as an aside, totally off topic, another revenue thing you could think about is charging to park. I think we're probably the only beach city in a 50-mile radius that doesn't have a way of charging to park somewhere near the water. And I don't think you'd need to reinvent the wheel because they've got an automated setup in Del Cerro. Something to think about. When the surf is lousy and it's 2 feet, there are a minimum of 60 cars parked on my street. And when it's good, 200 cars. That's easy money. Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming. Brian Pressman.
So apologies in advance. My comment's actually not about the measure. So good evening. Over the years, I've spoken before you regarding the Palos Verdes Homes Association and its election system. And I've discussed many of these issues with several of you individually. Before last night, however, you may not have known that last year I filed a lawsuit in Superior Court asking for a judge's help to address the PVHA's longstanding election problems. The main problem being that for 17 years in a row, the PVHA has failed to democratically elect directors, and the current board has never been elected by members themselves. I filed the case as petitioner and have represented myself without a lawyer throughout the proceedings. The case was discussed during your meeting last night and also has been the subject of a recent ABC 7 news coverage. I was surprised to hear that last night the litigation was characterized as a housing density issue. Respectfully, that is not what the case is about. It is also not about simply about also whether the quorum percentage should be lowered by as much as 30%. The question before the court is whether the PVHA should have an election system that results in our board of directors being elected and accountable to the members who actually vote each year. In the past 17 years, 26,732 residents have voted in PVHA elections, but those votes have not been used to determine who serves as directors because the association's 50% quorum requirement has not been met. My lawsuit does not ask the court to decide questions about housing density, development, zoning, deed restrictions, or any particular policy outcome. It asks whether the PVHA should have an election system where member participation determines election outcomes. If the overwhelming majority of residents, myself included, oppose large-scale residential projects, then functioning elections would only reinforce that outcome because elected directors would reflect the views of the membership. Elections do not impose policy preferences. Elections allow residents to express them. Judge Honeycutt has invited public participation and will be holding public hearings before making a final decision. Residents who wish to participate and express their views can do so before the court on July 29th and August 5th. Lastly, my goal is simple, that we arrive at an election system where residents vote, the votes count, and election outcomes are determined by members who actually participate. I've been asking Judge Honeycutt for nothing more and nothing less. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. I let you go out of kindness, intentional. Please don't clap on any of the above, whether it's the subject that we're actually here for or not. I'm just out of respect for everyone else. Brian, to your points, I let you speak intentionally out of kindness. that the Brown Act allows us only to accept public comments that are on the item of agenda, which is the parcel tax and/or related items that are on the agenda. So I hope we can keep to that, but I intentionally wanted to let you go and hear your comments. Next up is Arif Haji.
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, and neighbors. Firstly, I'd like to thank the council members for volunteering their time to this community. I can't see you with my glasses, but I can see what I'm reading, barely. My wife, Azmina, and I have been residents of PVE since 1997. I'd like to take us back a few days, or a few years. On this day in 1752, yes, there was a 1752. Benjamin Franklin bravely went into a thunderstorm to test a bold idea that lightning was electricity. Flying a silk kite fitted with a metal wire and key, he successfully collected an electrical charge in a jar. Although he was not the first to prove lightning was electricity, his audacious kite experiment was a defining moment in the study of electricity. On this day in 2026, June 10th, opposing sides of Measure PF can do something equally audacious and capture the equivalent of electricity in a jar by working together on the one thing they both agree on: securing sufficient funding for our wonderful city's police department. Both sides have declared on lawn signs all throughout the city that we are safer, smarter, and more flexible when we have our own police department as compared to contracting with an agency. History shows us that on issues of shared values, which are public safety, economic health, community trust, people on opposite sides can come together to achieve a common good when they focus on clarity, simplicity, accountability, and collaborative problem solving. We have seen bipartisan coalitions and they have found common ground on issues such as disaster response, and we are close to a disaster given when the funding runs out for our police department, infrastructure, veteran services, things like that, by committing to transparent planning and measuring outcomes. These are reminders that progress often comes not from partisan victory, but from responsible collaboration. Many, including me, were surprised that Measure PF failed and by the margin with which it failed. The citizens of this community have spoken loudly. They have said, we want our police department, and that was shown on yes and no signs all over the city, and we want to keep our police department. And the citizens also want budget transparency. So what I'm going to recommend is that if there were just a Measure P, it probably would have passed. And that's about $8 million. Keep it simple, don't put fillers in it, don't put wrappers in it, and call it a day, and we will have some funding for 10 to 15 years in the forward for our police department. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Bill Goldman. Hi, Bill.
Good evening. Thanks for jumping on this. I think most people realize that the city wants to keep the majority of services that we have, and especially the police department, local fire department. But we have to recognize that the resistance to Measure PF was based largely on skepticism about the size of the budget projections and the amount of the parcel tax. That's why it lost. I mean, the no argument said the projections were too aggressive, and that rang loudly. So what we're doing tonight, community outreach, is doing the right thing, but public input is not the only issue. The issue is whether residents have confidence in the budget numbers, and that would be helped by a neutral, independent financial review. Now, I don't diminish the city staff work on the budget and the many iterations they took, but it's that many residents need assurance that the projections are reasonable before they're comfortable voting themselves a large tax increase. Now, I saw in the agenda that you'd previously hired a consulting company to recommend revenue options to replace Measure E, and those reports are very useful. But if the assumptions and projections that they used to produce their reports relied on the existing city's projections, then it doesn't fully address a central concern, that are the projections reasonable and defensible. So that's why I'm suggesting that the city hire an independent municipal, a financial consultant to review the city's long-term projections, assumptions, required infrastructure, and that review would help determine the proper size of a parcel tax rather than making an arbitrary reduction that might not be right. So if this review is clearly communicated to the public, then the next parcel tax, partial measure will have a much stronger credibility. And my sense is that voters are willing to pay for essential services and infrastructure restoration if they believe that the numbers are solid. So I know there's not a lot of time, but I think you could hire a consultant with the marching direction that they have to get it done fast. And if you do that and they perform a neutral review of the city's budget projections in a time frame that meets the ballot, then I think this will be a positive step in gaining voter confidence and approval of the next iteration of the parcel tax. So, and it will enable us to come up with the right amount of the parcel tax that meets the requirement and doesn't shortchange the city. Thank you.
Good points. Thanks. Scott's. I'm waiting to see if there's any comments or anybody jumps in. Scott Spiegel.
This is my first meeting, and not
Welcome.
something I typically get involved in, but when I saw the content of the measure, it seemed that there was a problem, so I studied it.
We're happy you're here.
I'm an engineer, worked for Hughes, Boeing, 35 years. I'm retired now. So I'm kind of analytical in nature and problem solving, and I'm here to try to help. So I looked at the data to try to understand it and determine what is the problem and how can we help. And I watched some of your prior workshops. So and I looked at the budget pretty closely. Let me just say that what I thought initially was that the proposed increase was too big. It was step function, huge, and I think that people do have a problem maybe with the magnitude, regardless, okay? And now we're sitting in a short time frame to do the work that really determines how much do we need, not the wish list aggregate, but what are the trades that we have in terms of needs, what are the opportunities, and do the work that's required to study it and determine the pros, cons, and put it out there in terms of facts and data, and not arm waving, not fear-mongering, but, these are the choices, and break it down to analytical choices and, priorities. I don't think we've seen that, and I don't, that takes some work, but I think is incumbent on the leadership to do that. Okay, so one thing that I did note that I think is a big problem and could solve the ability to get this legislation passed is the algorithm. I do not know where Prop E algorithm came from. The parcel portion, 342, plus the 0.2 times square footage, I have no idea, but if you look at that, it's not a proportionate distribution based on people's affordability to pay real estate taxes. And I went online and I looked at data and I put together a matrix of examples of homes that are basically low in relative cost or real estate tax points, and then how much they're paying. And there's, and then I looked at the high, and let me just say that the low end is carrying the bulk of the burden. and that's not fair. And it's also not affordable. The low end people are possibly, you know, people who are retired. They can't afford a big percent change. Yeah, you look confused. So let me give you some numbers. These are real homes, okay? There's a home. It's 1,540 square feet.
Just a quick time, not going to make you stop, but quick time reminder, a few seconds left.
Okay, so the Prop E as it was, the percentage of their total real estate tax was 14%. Okay, on the other end of the spectrum, most homes that are over 3,000 square feet and over $5 million are paying like 2.2. So at most 3% of their tax is on Prop E.
Okay.
And if you go to the Prop PF, it's a huge number. Like that one home is paying 46% of its real estate tax on Prop PF alone.
We get it.
Okay, they can't afford it. There are people who are, you know, on fixed incomes. So
Appreciate
I think the parcel algorithm, I think, is flawed. If you were to change,
So your time is way beyond expired.
okay, if you
But we
changed it
understand
to
your
a
point.
fixed percent of the assessed value, like 0.0007%, you will get $7 million a year because you have a $9 billion tax roll.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you change that, you might get a huge percentage of people that actually be able to afford it and vote yes.
You know, I think it's an interesting point. One of the challenges with where we are as we look at a November election that would require building a 66% coalition is we also have younger folks who have moved into the city who purchased their home, you know, $2.5 million home, let's say. They're paying 6% on, or 7% in some cases, for their interest rate, and their mortgage payment each month is like $20,000. And the property tax they're paying is $35,000 a year. And I've had quite a few of those folks come up to me at the elementary school where I have my children and say, I'm going to vote no on PF. And the reason I'm going to vote no on PF is because I'm paying $35,000, $40,000 a year in property tax, and my neighbor's paying $4,000. And so for them, you know, they're looking at it from the opposite perspective. They're trying to save for college, they're trying to pay their mortgage, they're trying to do all those things, and they feel like they can't afford it. And so I hear your point, and I understand that there are seniors that are squeezed. There's also young families that are squeezed. And so as we think about how we can get to 66%, we're going to have to address the concerns of both of those groups.
Let me just suggest that the newbies, the ones that just remodeled, the ones that just bought, they've accepted the fact that they're going to be paying $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. Whereas people who've been here a while have accepted the fact that they only have to pay X amount, and their retirement counts on that. They've accepted that, both sides.
Totally hear it.
Their faith.
No, I understand the point.
Change
Yeah.
on the lower end hurts more than the people who are paying, I'm going to say, my bias is they're paying $50,000, what's $52,000?
Maybe. Yeah.
You pay $4,000 and then you have to pay $6,000.
Yeah. Right. No, I understand the point. As a percentage, it's a bigger increase, and I think that's a valid point. I'm just saying that as we build a coalition, we can't lose too many of these people to gain these people and so forth. Right.
Look at those distributions and determine, you know, how might it be appealing across a broader base than what we currently saw.
Yeah.
Good.
No, understood.
Right.
Understood.
Cool.
Valid point.
Desiree Myers.
Thank you, members of the council and the mayor. Measure PF didn't pass, and I don't believe it was a solution to our problems. This result presents an opportunity to address our core challenges. We have 3 more election cycles before Measure E funding expires. November 2026 is the optimal election to get things settled as soon as possible for everyone. Residents seek affordability, fiscal stability, strong public safety with their local police, and trust in the process. The key components I've heard most often are reforms that improve the affordability and long-term sustainability. I prepared a list of 20 practical items that can meaningfully reduce costs. This is where the council can show they're ready to come to the table. 2, clear priorities, a measure that legally directs funds to these priorities with binding goals. 3, accountability, annual progress reports to residents with corrective actions when milestones are not met. 4, strong guardrails. Funds must address priority problems. One-time issues need one-time funding, then the tax reduces. Expansion of non-essential services and development belong in a separate tax. Transparency, a complete holistic solution developed openly with residents so they are not surprised by future tax stacks, like was attempted in Measure D. The solution, in my opinion, looks like this. 1, reforms with cuts that can be made that are affordable and work for residents. 2, and when I say, I mean cost efficiencies. And 2, implement a tax with permanent funds to replace police funding and temporary funds to pay down the pension debt to eliminate our $2 million in debt service. That debt service is then repurposed for the infrastructure, combined with the restricted county funds, that provides $4 million a year in infrastructure funds. Collaborative efforts are welcomed to eliminate surprises. Thank you.
Ms. Myers, I have a question, if you have a moment. What is, obviously we face a tight timeline between now and essentially call it the end of July to actually formulate something for the November ballot. Is your position or your suggestion that we should try to incorporate those elements into a parcel tax between now and then? Or are you saying that we should sort of work on that in parallel but a sort of separate track?
I think it'd be best to work together. I think the community wants people to come together to provide a solution where everybody can say, yep, I agree on it, or at least say, listen, I agree on this part, I don't agree on this part, and everybody can sort it out and see that.
Okay, so what you mean? So I take that to mean that you think we should try to bundle as many of those points into the parcel tax itself and pass that as a.
That is what I've heard from residents
in November.
And I do get a lot of feedback, and so I'm trying to bundle the biggest ones and provide them for you, because I also want to see that tax pass in November with over 66%. And I want as most people as possible to be happy and our employees feeling secure so we can move beyond it and that people are comfortable that, hey, this was the right solution for our community and we've hurt the least amount of people possible with the affordability factor.
And then I guess my ultimate question would be, I understand that you've formulated a, maybe it's not fair to say you, but you and people close to you have formulated a proposal, a fairly structured proposal. I don't think that that's been provided to the council. Is that something that you are able to release to us in written form? Is that something that is actually in a format that could be placed on a ballot today, or is that something that's more conceptual?
It can be placed on the ballot today. It's fully mature, and it was done with a municipal attorney. It does everything that's I've described here because it was all based on the input that we were receiving.
And I believe that Mr. Kemps asked you for it. Is there a reason you haven't provided it to us?
Yes, I don't want to get in front of you. I'm not out to compete with you. I don't think that's what we need right now. I think we need to work together and build on that so I can show you the components that are in this, but I don't want you to turn around. We need to build trust. Let's build that together. We can do that in time to get this done. And we can use what I have if that's what's needed to expedite it. But let's work together and build that trust.
One of the concerns that I've had is again, the timeline and whether we, I understand that I've read your website, and I think I have a pretty good understanding of the major points in your proposal. I'm concerned if we can actually build a coalition around all of those points between now and the deadline. If we can't do that, but if we can structure a streamlined proposal that saves the police and accounts for some of the other core priorities that I think we generally can all agree on, let's say, would you personally support what I'll call a streamlined proposal that's achievable on the timeline that we
Yes.
actually have here?
Yes, I do. Yes, I
You
will.
would? Okay, so you're flexible on the ultimate shape, basically.
Yes, it's achieving the goals and the process of including the residents as well.
Okay,
Because
all right, great.
it can never be about me
Yeah,
any more than it can be about you.
right.
It's about them.
completely agree with you, so.
Okay.
All right, good, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
excellent.
Peter McCormack.
I will give up my time. I've got nothing to add that anyone hasn't said so far.
Thank you.
An efficiency expert. We could all learn from that, yeah.
Maybe we can catch you at the end if you want to cover that topic.
Yeah,
Can we do that?
you should.
Can we catch you at the end for July 4? Okay. Jessica Irani.
Good evening, Council and Mayor Pro Tem.
Can you raise the mic? Yeah.
Thanks.
My name is Jessica Irani. Some of you might have seen my post on Nextdoor about everyone coming together to generate a common ground solution. This past vote is not about judging, should not be about ego nor special interest, but should be a learning experience as to the mindset and ongoing forward, what type of solution has the strongest likelihood to succeed. I want to repeat this because it's very important. This past vote is not about judging, should not be about ego, nor special interest, but should be a learning experience as to the mindset of the electorate, what caused that mindset, and going forward, what type of solution has the strongest likelihood to succeed. We know the voter mindset was almost 60% not in favor of PF. So how can we change that? To that end, I would like to suggest that a cross-functional working group be set up that is representative of our diverse community to come up with a financially viable and voter-acceptable initiative. This group has at its starting point the issues raised by both the in favor of and opposing voices of PF. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sorry, finishing my notes. Parvin Jensen. And while you're walking up, George, do we have Zoom participants?
We have 44 total attendees, but I'm
Awesome.
unclear as to how many attendees wish to speak or are just watching.
So maybe we could prompt them to raise their hands if they wish. As
You
we're
want to do that right now?
getting closer, go ahead.
Okay, when we get closer. Okay.
Hi, we have two left, and then if you could do that. Thanks. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here this opportunity tonight to speak, and wanted to thank our police, our city managers, the whole honorable city councils, everyone. Thank you for all of this. Everything you guys are doing is great, and we are going to do more better things. What I brought here tonight is, since there are a lot of smarter people, yourself and other people are offering about the situation with the new PF, I only brought you an idea to establish a voluntary community donation program that allows residents, businesses, community supporters to contribute funds through a designated nonprofit organization to support special projects and community improvement in Palos Verdes. This is a small, thing, and it would be on an honor basis, just like PEF, structured like PEF, and it will be going through this like on your newsletter, asking what your needs are, like infrastructure or the trimming or something, tree trimmings, and then will be able to honor the residents that they're willing to donate to get these services done. So the money would be, all, I'm sure it would be all accountable, who's taking what and what that. I can send something out in details if you're interested.
Happy to see it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Spencer.
Thank you very much for having this gathering tonight. I grew up in Palos Verdes, and I live here now, and I am a supporter of the Palos Verdes Police Department. But I wanted to call attention, because I'm not sure, in my discussions about PF, I didn't really hear that people were aware of this one piece of the measure that I feel I have concerns about how it could impact the city's negotiation ability if something similar was added to the measure that may be put forth by council. So there was a section 3.36050C, that said that if the city council eliminates or disbands the Palos Verdes Police Department and contracts with the sheriff or some other local law enforcement agency to become the primary agency providing local enforcement services in the city, the public safety tax is not authorized to be levied in any fiscal year that begins subsequent to the effective date of the elimination or disbandment. I'm not saying that I'm not saying to disband the police. I'm saying that I feel like this kind of a clause really negatively impacts the city's ability in their negotiations. And I'm concerned if something like this were to end up in whatever you guys are proposing. So I just wanted to call attention to it because I really haven't heard it discussed. And I only really became aware of it when I read the entire measure.
So that language is in, I don't know if it's exactly the same, but something like it is in the current Measure E. I think that's where that came from. And I think the issue is if the majority of the residents, I'm trying to be as neutral as possible in what I'm saying, if the majority of the residents are looking at it saying, okay, I'm willing to support this funding because that's my top priority, and hypothetically in the future we're all gone, we're 3/4 of the way through the measure, and a city council were elected that said, no, we want to go off and do something else. The intent of the voters could potentially be violated if they do that, and I think that's the purpose of the provision. So I'm not necessarily defending that it's there or not there. I'm just saying that it was in E. I think that's why it was placed in PF, and the question is around what that priority is and whether or not people still want that there.
Okay. Well, I guess I just feel like it causes maybe a power situation in negotiations in the long term.
Meaning like the police union would have more power over the city council from a
Yes.
negotiating perspective?
Yes. So that's my concern.
I think it's an interesting point, but I actually think that our police association has remarkably little power, with all due respect to them. The organization.
Somebody get that on video?
Yeah. That's right. The organizations that I'm afraid of are LA County Fire and LA Sheriff, who have more sworn officers than there are residents in our entire city, and billion-dollar budgets and multi-million dollar union war chests, right? And so if you compare our very lovely but small police department and the ultimate authority that the city council has to set their wages and do all of the things that we ultimately decide to do, we have to negotiate with them. We're legally required to negotiate with them, but we're not legally required to take their proposal. We set the final proposal, and they know that. And so, I think to the mayor's point, every poll we've ever done, every conversation I've ever had growing up and living in this city, I run into very, very few people who say they want to get rid of our police department. Right. But so I think that is a set point that we sort of generally all agree on. And it's sort of baked into, an assumption, whether it's written into the law or not. But to the mayor's point, what that does is, let's say just somehow we get 3 council members that don't feel that strongly about it, and they want to get rid of our police, it's a lot harder for them to do that and then keep that money, right? If the money is tied to having our local police department. So I think that was the reason why it was included, and I think it does make sense to include it in a measure going forward.
I do want to say, I think that the concern is valid, and I'll tell you, as long as I've been involved, I don't know that any of us have ever heard, well, you can't get rid of us, so we're going to stick it to you for X, Y, Z. Sorry to be so blunt. Apologies to anybody that's insulted. I think every negotiation that I've been involved in has been fair-minded, collaborative. You know, the best negotiations are the ones where nobody's happy. Most of them end up that way. But it's a fair point, for sure.
I just wanted to raise it.
Yeah. No, thanks. Yeah.
Another point is it's very difficult to recruit and retain police officers in our community, given where we live. And even though it's a fair wage, it's not the highest wages that are out there. So that provision also adds a very critical degree of longevity and predictability and stability for the force. So I think just wanted to add that.
Interesting.
Very good point.
That's all the cards I have in person, unless if anyone wants some more, raise your hand. Yeah, come up. George, do you have some teed up?
Good evening. My name is Richard Benner. I've been in the city for 63 years, and I have a finger on the pulse of the community that apparently City Council doesn't have.
Okay.
I'm not here to castigate.
That's fine.
But I'm here to ask you to do some introspection because you really missed by 20%. There was a little legal subterfuge putting it on the ballot with a simple majority.
Mm-hmm.
So we felt cheated. The other thing that was kind of devious was putting the PF, because it's really about the police. The fire was not really associated with the funding. So I think it's necessary for whoever comes together to formulate a new plan to get out in the community and not to stay in your bubble of like-minded individuals. I think you probably thought that it would pass. I knew it wouldn't.
Well stated.
Yeah, and I think you have a very clear point that the folks who are supporting PF, I'll include myself in that, missed the mark. A minor technicality, just for the record, the money was set aside specifically only for police and fire.
It was the amount that was freed up.
Legally designated for police and fire. What PF obviously was doing was also freeing up money from the general fund, right? So once you legally designate the money for police and you legally designate another bucket of money for fire, then it frees up money from the general fund. And then what you do with the money from the general fund obviously was the sticking point, I think, for most people. I think there were some folks, I was on Nextdoor, I think there were some folks that were confused about fire and whether fire was actually paid for or not, or what, in a sense, that's maybe not really the point. But the point was the money freed up from the general fund. But anyway, just a minor technicality to clarify that. So, yeah.
Certainly understand the concerns and the downsides. Zoom speakers. Let's see if this works.
All right, the moment of truth. Mr. Mayor.
And Richard, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we're going to transition to Zoom public comment right now. And so I'll be asking anyone that is an attendee within the Zoom webinar to begin to raise their hands so we can identify them as individuals interested in conducting public comment. Thereafter, they're going to be upgraded to a panelist where they'll have the ability to turn on their mic and turn on their video as well. And so at this time, everyone who is interested in providing that public comment, please provide a raised hand using either the desktop or the mobile function.
Well, look at that.
Okay, so first up, we have Blake's iPhone 2.
Oh, uh-oh. Read that into the record with the iPhone 2, please.
Oh.
You will.
Well, I think they'll still have to introduce themselves, right?
Yes. Okay.
Drum roll, please.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Let me go rack and read that.
All right, I think you can hear me now. Hey. Wow, this is amazing. I'm driving.
Now.
You can hear me. All right, this is great. So I don't have anything prepared. I'm driving home from Santa Monica.
Oh, I know who this is, but could you identify yourself, please?
Oh, my name is Blake Gilman. I'm a resident of Palos Verdes Estates. A lot of you know me from next door. And that's an understatement. And I've lived here my whole life. Went to all PV schools like Derrick, like Kemp's, and I care deeply about the city and our future. And I will say, just in listening to the comments, I was a little concerned to hear that Ms. Myers does not intend to share the Residents First proposal with us. If we're truly trying to come together as a community and end the divisiveness, and a municipal attorney has prepared a document that could be very helpful to the city, then I think it's incumbent on Ms. Myers to share that with the community so we can come together and perhaps use it in forging a way forward. I don't believe when she says that she's not competing with city council. I think by withholding that document, she's exactly competing with city council, and that's not something we should encourage. Regarding a thought I had, if you look at the original bylaws for the Palos Verdes Homes Association, it talks about basically a Parks and Recs department that PVHA would have. And I was thinking, we don't have that in Palos Verdes Estates. We kind of subsume it under the Public Works Director role. And so, and also have the Parklands Committee that advises council. But if there were a way to perhaps return that power and allocation of money to PVHA, make PVHA responsible for fire abatement, weed abatement, landscaping, all that mundane stuff that just really takes up a lot of time, that would free up money that the city can use on city functions. And I think this is real timely because it appears very likely that the quorum is going to drop and we will have Democratic PVHA elections yet again. And the elections each year will be extremely important. And so the residents will have their voices heard each year about how money is being spent if we re-empower that park committee with PVHA and enable PVHA to start imposing assessments on us.
You're at your time.
And those assessments won't be subject to Prop 13.
Appreciate.
That's my point.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate your comments. Have your notes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to return fire on one thing. I think it's critical that we drop past wars, that we drop politics, that we drop direct accusations, and whatever people want to bring as ideas and forethought relative to work that they've done and worked on in the past, whoever they are, is welcome and appreciated, and we're grateful for it. And that's the way we get an 85% vote. We don't get it by immediately hearing a speaker and then turning around and having a political targeting fest. And I mean the same for you. I would not do that to you either. So I think the spirit in which we need to adjust, and part of this is out of this PF change, right, is cut it out. Cut it out on Nextdoor, cut it out here, cut it out, period. And let's everybody come together and actually really truly solve the problems of this city and bring together something that we can be absolutely proud of. We're not going to get 100%, we acknowledge that, but somehow we can pull this together so that, God forbid, nobody ever has to put another sign on a car. All right.
Mr. Mayor, point of order.
Sorry if I went too far.
If I may, just the Zoom timer is not working, and that's okay. Is that what we're hearing?
Right now, yes.
Okay.
But we're starting a timer on this side so that
We can see it. I'm just reminding you that.
Okay.
Can we give people like a warning?
Can we, maybe give them a 30-second warning?
Sure.
Okay.
Happy to do it.
Just so y'all know, it worked yesterday. So.
Okay. Who's up?
Next one is Joe Aman.
Hi, Joe.
Can you hear me?
Hear you great.
Thanks.
You are
Appreciate it.
presently sideways, though. 1 second.
There we go.
You are no longer sideways. You are straight up.
What a debut, huh?
Yeah.
Look, appreciate everyone's time. I'm one of those people who bought a house for $2.5 million and pay a bunch of taxes, and then we, just voted for the school school bond too. So I'm going to do my best to represent kind of the average young person who just moved here. I'd say obviously parents care about the kids, want the fire department or the police department part of the town. I think if you guys can get to like $1,000 per parcel, like it would probably pass. That's not my number. I'm just saying like round numbers here. Call it Measure P, like that other gentleman said. Get a couple of the caveats in, you'll probably get a clean pass. Anything else is too complicated. It gets too politicized. I think you're going to have trouble. I know it's going to disappoint some people, but just focus on fewest most important and get it done, because a burden from 40 to 60% is kind of a steep hill to climb. And in parallel, I'd have a look at like other revenue. I think as someone who moved here, it's kind of like, why don't we charge for parking? Like, why don't we have more restaurants or commercial stuff in Malaga Cove or Lunada Bay? And if that means like selling a parcel of land here or there and opening something up, it's not the end of the world. I know some people think it's the end of the world, but to most of us, it's like, it's not the end of the world, and it's going to get people, like the people who really care about this, ironically, are the same people
By the way,
who really...
let me, I don't know if you heard the room, let me give you the poll on the selling a parcel here or there. Yeah, no. The rest, great ideas. Keep going. Sorry.
All right. Fair enough. Appreciate you listening.
I just wanted to make sure you heard the poll.
In the spirit of compromise, I'll stop there.
You don't have to stop. There is more time left if you want to keep going.
No, just keep thinking about other ways to generate revenue, and so forget the parcel, but hey, what can we get more juice out of commercially? Because it's a wonderful place to live, and I think it would be an even better place to live if we had, more restaurants or cafes, some of which could be open later, and have more people visiting the community, paying sales tax, maybe paying even a small resort tax at like La Venta or something like that. So you get more revenue other ways, and then the people who care about a lot of these services and want to do more have more money to do it with. It doesn't always come from the citizens. So thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me make a couple of very quick comments. So first of all, thank you for showing up as probably one or two millennials who has spoken well, I think you're the first millennial who's spoken tonight. So I think that's good. I think one of the problems in our community is we don't have much engagement from folks roughly my age. And I think that lack of engagement is actually a pretty serious problem, and probably one of the reasons that we weren't able to craft a passing measure this first time around. I will say, you know, $1,000 a house would generate 5.3 million, and $1,000 a house would leave us with approximately a $2 million deficit next year. It wouldn't address the growing pension debt problem that we have, and it would basically put us on a path to bankruptcy. So, you know, I like the concept of a streamlined parcel tax that's easy to understand and easy to agree to, but I you know, just for the record, you know, we really need to be realistic about what it's actually going to take to dig us out of the hole here. So, yeah. But thanks for being engaged. That's great. That's the first step. So, yeah.
Look forward to seeing you at one of the coffee shops or not restaurants. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Vernon Lindholm.
George, how many do we have in queue?
No, it's one person that has raised their hand.
This is our last speaker.
25 attending remotely is awesome.
All right. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for your time. You know, I think obviously the rejection of PF at the ballot box, it's pretty clear that while residents deeply value all the emergency services, that wasn't the answer everybody was looking for. You know, before we consider bringing another tax method to the ballot, just a couple thoughts that I had that I wanted to share. You know, one, right-sizing the ask to the actual deficit. I think, you know, it seems like the proposed $16 million tax was a bridge too far for a lot of people, you know, considering it's currently about an $8 million deficit. So, you know, I think that's, a lot of people have said the same thing, just echoing that piece. You know, two, I think we need to look inward for structural cuts first. I think we need to make sure that we've exhausted all internal cost-cutting measures, obviously leveraging things like technology and whatnot to maximize efficiency and staffing. Really, I think there's some opportunities there to reduce overhead, exploring any joint powers authorities to share costs with neighboring cities, and a firm stance on pension reform for all future hires to prevent that unfunded liability from compounding further. Three, implementing a strict sunset and a surplus refund mechanism. And I think it was what Milton Friedman famously said, nothing's so permanent as a temporary government program. So, you know, I think we really need like a clear expiration date to enforce fiscal accountability and prevent it from becoming a permanent fund. I think it also needs to include an adjustable levy cap if possible, where if the tax generates more revenue than the audited deficit in a given year, the excess should automatically trigger a reduction in the following year's tax rate, effectively crediting the surplus back to the residents. And four, acknowledging the burden on newer homeowners. I am also, you know, I think I fit into that millennial camp. I purchased my home about a year ago. To give some context, I think when I looked it up, my property tax bill this year, the first year I paid property tax in PVE, was almost a 400% increase from the previous property tax bill from the previous owner. So, you know, I think I feel like I'm paying my fair share. But, you know, obviously we're already shouldering a drastically disproportionate share of the property tax base compared to a lot of longtime owners, which, you know, layering an excessively high parcel tax on top of that really places an incredibly unfair financial strain on recent buyers. I think that
Timer's working.
I was like, is he watching CBS or what's going on? All right. Did you wrap? Did you finish your thought? Shouldn't be cut off.
We didn't cut him off.
Oh,
We can't hear
it
him.
says muted.
It muted him.
Yeah,
Hold
if you
on.
wanna
Sorry, hold on 1 second, Vernon.
There we go.
All right. We there?
Oh, sorry, we hear you now. Your time's pretty well wrapped, but go ahead with your last thought.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, you know, I really feel that any future tax should be universally applied without any carve outs. You know, I know there's senior citizens in the city. I hear it. You know, I know there's fixed incomes, but, you know, I'm sure we would all agree that everybody has, you know, really enjoyed a huge amount of appreciation of the years and can find some way to bridge the gap. You know, I'd like to believe that there's probably not anybody in PV that's destitute, like living hand to mouth. I could be wrong, but that's, you know, my guess. So, you know, that's just wanted to put that out there as, you know, a younger member of the population in PVE. And, you know, really one of the reasons why I voted no on PF, you know, all for supporting things and seeing what we need to get done. But, you know, really want to look at that from a fair lens and trying to do everything we can to minimize that.
Awesome comments. One quick education piece for the room and back to you on one of them. There was some statewide pension reform that was put in place in 2013, referred to as PEPRA. Beyond that, the legal controls on what we can do as a council are very, very tight. We cannot change categories, we cannot change rates, et cetera, et cetera. There's very specific legal requirements on whether they're, you know, miscellaneous or safety relative to officers or standard staff and their inclusion in CalPERS. So the real, I don't want to go too deep, but the real lever that we have is reducing that debt by paying it down and keeping it under control. And then, of course, the number of employees that get hired into the system. Beyond that, it's actuarial art and science together. But in summary, we cannot address that actual pension reform issue. It's a statewide issue.
Sure. No, understood.
The other thing I want to just briefly address for the room, and I've heard Vernon say this and a couple of the other speakers, is looking to cuts and efficiencies in addition to looking to revenue. And, you know, I'll say this. There are always going to be, in an organization with a $25 million plus budget, there will always be efficiencies that can be found. But I also don't think that we should, and in fact, we recently found one. We increased the amount of weed abatement in the city by approximately 30% while reducing the cost by approximately 30%. I mean, that was an efficiency. It was a real win. It was a win for, you know, everybody in the city. But I also don't want to have us collectively overestimate the efficiencies that remain available. And the reason that I say that is, as I was a candidate, as I came onto this council and read all these documents and the budget and everything and really, really dove into detail, I was surprised at how many efficiencies the group of existing council members had already exploited or already executed on. And that included cutting staff positions. There were approximately 10 staff positions that were cut compared to the peak of staffing here in this city. It included things like stopping our printed newsletter, which didn't save a huge amount of money. It saved $30,000 a year or something like that. But my point is, sort of big people, small newsletter, you know, they really looked at a very, very broad spectrum of stuff and cut a lot of it. In fact, I don't want to say too much, but one of them told me we kind of cut into the bone marrow of this city, right? And I'm sorry to reveal, you know, private conversation, but I think it's important to put it out there. And I agree with that. You know, I work in the business world. I've run some pretty large teams with a couple hundred employees. I've had to lay off hundreds of people in my career. I've actually made cuts where I've laid off hundreds of employees in a single fell swoop. And I did not see anything here that looked like an opportunity to make dramatic cuts. Yes, to make some wins, right, here and there, but not to fundamentally shift the trajectory. So I just, I'm not, you know, yeah, I'll just close on this thought. The only reason I bring that up is we do need to look at the expense side of the city. We obviously have to look at the revenue side of the city. I just want us to collectively kind of be realistic about what's possible, because I think these folks have already done a really good job looking at the expense side.
Can I just piggyback on that a little bit?
Go ahead, and I'm going to take the other side for the benefit of the room. Go ahead.
It's been, what, 7 years or so since we got on. I became a member of this council and with a couple of my colleagues here. And we have looked at expenses up one side and down the other. And we have cut back. We have made mistakes in cutting back. One of them that Councilmember Lazaro just referred to was the communication newsletter that was in hard copy. And I'll admit, I was one of those that voted to cancel that. But in retrospect, that was a mistake because it didn't carry the transparency. It didn't communicate with the public. We have made some experimental cuts that we've had to go back on. At this point in time, there's very little, if any, opportunity to reduce expenditures. When you look at the fire risks, the weed abatement, the tree trimming, all the landscaping issues, we've gone up and down, back and forth with those. And in order to close the $1.7 million gap, which is one of the things we discussed last night, we have to look at alternative items. To me, the police and the fire contracts are off the table because they're mandatory. That's part of our public safety. So it comes back to services, whether it be how the streets are maintained, how the sewers are maintained. And by the way, we haven't been putting money away for our infrastructure repair and replacement for years. And it is a growing problem. And we end up having surprises. Like we've got one going on right now on Palos Verde Drive West where they found, Oscar can deal with it better than I can, but we've got down in La Serra Circle or whatever it is, and we end up with these surprises. And what happens, because we're not doing preventative maintenance, it costs more. It's a surprise, and we have to react in a very inefficient manner. We are between rocks and hard places when it comes down to expenditures. So we're going to have to go back and look at all these things. And the comments made about we need to tighten the belt, it doesn't come without some kind of reduction somewhere else, because I can't go to our chief of police and say, I want you to cut $200,000 off your budget. And he's going to turn back to me and say, well, what service do you want me to give up? Which officers do you want me to give up? Those are the challenges that we have to look at and be serious about.
So I don't think there's anything you said that's invalid. I think what we have to validate to, post-PF, reestablish trust, pull the community together, and come up with something that works, I think we have to understand and recognize some things that have been asked for and some discrepancies. Sorry, Trevor, I'm going to pick on your budget. Our legal budget has gone from about $250,000 to $600,000. There are many valid reasons for some of the things that are in there. Some of it's closed session that we can't discuss. The city gets sued. We have to deal with it. We have to respond. We have to do those things. But one big component of that, and again, I'm not placing blame or pointing fingers at any one individual. One of the reasons for that big increase in budget is we outsource a lot of the work that's associated with public records requests. There are probably some things that we can do relative to efficiencies and electronic records, I mean, even if we have to, I said to Carrie today when we were talking about this, if we hired an analyst, it might be, we might be less expensive than, the full legal exposure of that piece of the public records work. I don't know. But I think that's the kind of thing that the community is looking for. I don't think one person would say they don't want street repairs on Palos Verdes Drive West dealt with. I don't think one person would say, hey, chief, go take out $200,000 out of your budget and let me know what it's going to be, right? So I think in an effort to be genuine, I think the effort needs to be to look at, look, fine, hit the revenue side first. This is me speaking. Hit the revenue side first, deal with it. We have a short time frame, come up with a reasonable number, pull the community without spending a crazy amount of money and making it 17 hours long in each call. Great. But at the end of the day, we'd like to make a valiant effort at ensuring that we're transparent, we're available, that maybe we can scan records, that we can find things more quickly, and that we can engage with the public and the community in ways maybe that we haven't. And I don't hear the side of the ledger, at least most people that I've spoken with, and I've placed individual calls to more than 15 people that I know for sure did not vote yes on PF. And I listened to every single one of them. Some of them were text messages and calls. And I heard overwhelmingly what I heard tonight. But I also hear some of the things that Ms. Myers collects from those that she speaks with, one that I just laid out, that are very real, valid concerns. Maybe they vet out, maybe they don't. But I think the magic is being open to listening and collaborating. And maybe if it's a list of 20 things and we pick 4 and we say, you know what, 1, 7, I'm making it up, 1, 7, 9, and 12 are great ideas. Let's make a valiant effort at trying those things.
So
let me jump
in. So I totally hear what you're saying, and I don't want anyone in the audience or you, Mayor Kemps, to take my comments to suggest that A, we shouldn't look for efficiencies. We should, totally agree. Or that B, I don't think we'll find efficiencies. We have as recently as a couple weeks ago, basically, and we will continue to find efficiencies. I think my comments were really directed more to level setting on the magnitude of the efficiencies that we will find, because I think that the obvious wins, I think that the obvious major efficiencies have largely already been tackled. The only one I can think of off the top of my head where, from the first day I saw it, I thought, well, we can probably do better than this, is our landscaping contract, which will come up, and we know about it. And probably the other one is our HR Green contract, but that one is super complicated and not something that we will solve quickly.
Yep. Let me just.
But again, I don't disagree at all that we can find efficiencies. I welcome those conversations. I want to be crystal clear on that. I just don't want folks to think that there's these sort of obvious stuff just waiting to be plucked and easily dealt with. That's right.
When you look at in our budget process, and I don't know how many of our residents really listened to the debates we had over it, but our insurance costs have gone up, 20+%, 30% year over year. That's our insurance costs. You look at the economic data that came out today about inflation. We're over 4%, and the market took a tank because of inflationary pressures. Our revenue stream from our growth in real estate taxes is budgeted in the 3.1 or 3.2% range. So every day we're falling further behind. And we haven't talked about rate increases not only with our vendors, but with our employees. These are all pressures that we're trying to deal with and balance back and forth. And we've done I think, an Ullman's job in trying to manage that as effectively and efficiently as we can, but we cannot get ahead of the power curve. And the residents haven't had a tax increase in a number of years. We failed with Measure D. We dipped into the reserves and had to borrow from the reserves, which we never repaid. And as a result, we've got all this deferred maintenance and infrastructure. And look at the building that you're sitting in right now. These are all challenges our residents have to deal with it sooner or later.
So just so you know, in the plus or minus 15 phone calls that I made, or text messages back and forth, I didn't have one person say, no way, we're not paying for a new tax. Not one. Every single one of them wants to support the police department. Every single one of them acknowledges many of the things that you've just said. They want a detailed understanding of what the numbers are. There is an affordability limit, and their ability to not only afford it and pay for it themselves in their own household, but recognize that the city is dedicating those revenues and using it responsibly is what they want. That's it.
And we have an
I think we all agree.
affordability
I think we all
concept as
agree.
well.
I mean, I think almost everyone in this room can agree on
Let's
that.
hear the next speaker.
I was gonna say,
We've got a couple more. I
Can we,
think,
can
right?
we, yeah, I don't know how much more public comment, I was just gonna say, can we do public comment so that we can actually have a discussion of possible solutions?
Well, I think maybe you guys could have the discussion because we've done all this.
We already had the solution. Figured it out.
Just letting you people work out your energy, hopefully.
Let's finish the speakers on Zoom, and then I'll gladly take your question. Yes.
All right, this will be the last speaker, James Roth. Joe Amon is trying to raise his hand, but Mr. Amon, I think you've already spoken. So per our meeting rules, we can't allow a speaker to speak more than once.
Unless it's a question.
Yes, correct. Okay.
People can technically donate time.
We have
or
another.
we-
Oh, no, let's not play
No?
Congress
Okay,
here.
all right. Yeah.
We're waiting for Jim?
James is coming on.
Okay, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yes.
Or evening.
Thank you very much. I had three comments I wanted to make. One is that I think that the increase, my observation, and these are all observations, is that the requested increase was large because the city has kicked the can down the road for a long time. And so I think I have to echo Councilmember McGowan's comments on that. And so we're faced with a much different problem now than if it had been worked on incrementally. I've heard a lot about implementing guardrails, and maybe some of that those comments are related to more communication. But my observation has been that guardrails are actually creating gridlock, and that it takes a long time to get things done because in some respects there's an interest in trying to solve problems by micromanaging the city government. And I guess my comment is I'd love to see similar efforts in putting guardrails on our county and state government. But I personally,
I think we can all agree on that, yeah.
So anyway, I think that I know that the ad hoc committees work, everybody's working hard, but I think more oversight is not necessarily going to make progress. On the affordability, I guess as an older person, I lived here 20 years. I'm over 70, so but I know that my property tax is 9.2 times more than a rental house that's 3 houses doors down from me. And if anybody would like to go to the county assessor's office and see how much people are paying in taxes, they'll see that. So I think there's a little bit of a misperception in terms of actual out-of-pocket costs and equity of that by looking at what people are paying, because the Prop 13 effect really skews things. And even though I've had 20 years benefit of Prop 13, I pay an awful lot more than virtually all of my neighbors. But on a more positive side, I would like to point out that, and I don't know the extent to which the city council can weigh in on this, but the PVE Foundation provides a good opportunity for those of us who want to put our money where our mouth is and contribute to the 501c3 for the city. Those who are 70 and a half can make up to $11,000 a year per person of qualified charitable distributions, and that has a very nice tax advantage. So I guess on the opposite side of the tax collection side, I want to try to push getting more donations and find ways to have people who are willing to pay more to keep things the way they are, to have a good way to be able to donate, as one of the earlier speakers had said.
And I think time. Thank you very much, Jim. All right. We had a question. Can you come up to the mic so everybody can hear it, though?
It sounds pretty convincing that there's not a lot of opportunity for trimming, but the part that was really confusing to voters is how the 16 million was arrived at. It wasn't very transparent, and now I see some scenarios of talking about half that amount, and so the question would be, at half that amount, is that kicking the can down the road, or is the city going to be in financial straits in 5 years? And has the city come up with a number that is comfortable? And that's my question.
Let me try to respond.
Go ahead.
You should let this other fellow comment too, because you let one other
Sure.
speaker
Yeah.
Another person.
Did he still have his hand up?
Joe.
Okay, Joe, did you want to comment?
The other guy online, sorry, because you came back, so he should come up.
Wait, Joe put his hand down.
Okay.
Put his hand down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, now he put it back up. Okay, it's exciting.
Let me respond to the comment that was just made.
No, I think he's coming up. 1 second.
Yeah. Sorry. I just put it down as because I thought you called me, but one thing I just want to reiterate is I think there's a lot of folks. Maybe there's 250 people on this call, and the person they care most about this, but there's a lot of people who voted for this who don't necessarily care as much about the details.
Yep.
And I think, Derek, in particular, you have a lot of technocratic responses to these things, but that's not going to resonate with voters in the time you need. So my recommendation is, like, if this doesn't pass, everyone's going to regret it. So just get something passed and focus on that. And maybe that means, hey, we're not going to have all the answers on the expense side. I don't think anybody thinks that this isn't running lean, but just commit, hey, we're going to find some expenses. We're going to work with Des on it. And we're going to also establish something to get some revenue. And if you only get, by the way, I hear you, Derek, 8 million. But if you get 6 million and you say, we're gonna commit to finding the other 2 to show goodwill to citizens, I get it. You're kicking the can down the road. I'm not saying it's the best idea for everyone on this call, but it might be what you need to do to get it passed. And it's just something to think about.
Okay, I'd like to go back and
we won't be standing. I'll be on a corner with you begging.
That's right.
Okay, go ahead, David.
let me go back and address.
It's a good comment. No.
The
Maybe adjust the
comments
number
that you
slightly.
just made. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. I'm apologize for that.
Joe, I'll get it.
Bill, going back in time, before the Citizens Initiative was ever brought forward, we did a number of presentations and town hall meetings. And yours truly presented a number of scenarios and discussions about our future long-range planning. And if I remember correctly, since I wrote the presentation and did the work, I made a comment that the long-range need of our community at that time was north of $17 million. Because of the deferred maintenance, the costs of running this city and recovering the deficits that we've been incurring, and all the financial cash flow issues that go on. And we have to look at cash flow, not just budget, because the timing of our expenditures requires us to maintain extra resources early in the year because we don't, of the timing of collection of real estate taxes. the Citizens Initiative group, they came forward, they did their own analysis, and they came in with a number of 16.25 million, if I remember correctly, which was less than what I was suggesting that was needed back before they started their work. The point being, once the Citizens Initiative got approved by the council, our dear friend, the lawyers, throughout the whole world here,
That was good timing.
wouldn't allow us, the five of us in the council, to comment or to deal with and address any of these questions. And we've sat there with our lips taped and everything else, but we knew damn well, I did, that if I were doing it, I would have recommended a little bit bigger number because it was justified. And when you go back and look at the biggest unknown that we have in this community, deals with our infrastructure. And our Public Works Director over here has done an awesome job in the last year in putting together a beginnings of an inventory of our infrastructure. And I kid back and forth with Oscar, we didn't even have an inventory of all of our assets. In other words, what it is that we have to maintain, repair, or replace. That is a evolving project. His most recent presentation showed that we had roughly $100 million of need, of which 80 of it was unfunded, and we've been finding more and more needs for that as we go forward. My guess is that it's going to be north of $100 million of unfunded needs in this community over the next 10 or 12 years. If you go back to Oscar's analysis and just say, if it's only $80 million, and I'm going to need to have that put in my savings account in order to repair that roof 3 years from now, or replace that driveway or the garage door or whatever the asset may be, we should be putting $8 million away each year over and above our revenue less expenses. That $8 million should be going in our savings account because we failed to do it for the last 10, 20 years. And what we did put in those reserve accounts have been bled down. And it goes back to Measure D. It goes back to when we didn't have funding. Thank God we had the COVID, and I don't take this the wrong way, the COVID reimbursements from the federal government. That was a godsend for this community. That gave us $3.5 million that we wouldn't have had otherwise. And we are sitting here today trying to figure out how we're going to be able to maintain all of this going forward. And there's also a time delay when you pass a tax measure before you get the revenues starting to come in the door. So we've got to play not only the dollar amounts, but the timing of when it does, because you've got to get a window to hit the county to put it on your tax bill, because the tax bills come out in the spring of the year. There's a lot of complexity to it that most people have no idea to. And I'm not trying to suggest that they need to have that level of understanding, but that's what the five of us have been doing and trying to manage on a very difficult shoestring. And we need, and I haven't even talked to some of the other problems that we've got in this city. Underneath this building and over here to Malaga Cove, we have the water migration problem, which we don't have any idea what the remediation should be. We needed to spend some money to do a study so that we can go apply for federal or state grants to try to help remediate the problem. Everything we do is, our hands are tied behind our back. So if you look at it objectively, and I'd be happy to sit down with anyone and lay out I'll go back to the $17+ million of needs over the next number of years, and I'll explain to you where I think all that is required and needed. We just cut a budget last night, we decided to cut back on the tree trimming budgets because we don't have the cash. Right now, we've got to save every nickel and dime so that we can live longer before our treasurer is unable to write checks. We're in a dire
Do we have
situation.
any more speakers?
Michael,
No
are
more
we
speakers.
making comments? Or are we in the comment section?
Yes.
Are we closing the public hearing and we have the comments? now,
It's a
or-
workshop, it's not a public
okay,
hearing. So
all right.
let me ask this. Are there any more public speakers that have not spoken yet in the room?
I just have a question.
Sure.
You have to do it at the microphone.
Yeah, could you come to?
Go to the mic, yeah.
See what people think
Sure.
of a uniform parcel tax. You can figure out.
Please do it at the
$2,500,
microphone
$3,000.
so we can
That
hear.
would generate 15 million.
Sorry, could you say it again?
Okay? The uniform parcel tax, every parcel pays the same amount. How many people think that that's a good idea? Does that seem fair or bad idea?
One. So far,
Bad
one.
idea?
We got one
Okay.
guy.
So far, we got
All right.
one.
Well, that
We're not getting 66%,
that shot that thing down.
so, yeah.
The problem is that people who have big houses and people who have little houses, they use the city services at the same rate. True or false? Same roads. How is it false? Not necessarily. The older people call out the services more.
I understand your point.
They're scared, right? They call the police more often.
Sure, sure.
So the young people, they're, I don't know, they're out on the roads on their e-bikes doing stuff. But the older people are probably going to be calling, they're going to be scared. So I just think that the use of the city services is pretty uniform, parcel to parcel. So people don't think that that's a good idea. All right, fine. But at least we've explored that. Okay.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
We absolutely accept your input.
Yeah.
100%.
Mayor Kemps, if we could jump in, I prepared a very brief document designed to structure my comments, so they'll be more brief than usual.
Do you promise?
I do.
Okay.
All right. I'm known as
And
the
then can we
long-winded
please
one,
hand it to
so
Victoria and Craig, who've
that's
been
right.
silent
Yes,
all
they've been
meeting?
my promise is I'm not going to be as long-winded as usual.
But that's like relative.
You're done. Derek, you're done. Thank
That
you.
is relative. So let's see. I'm on board. If you could make me one of the presenters.
Well, that's why you logged in.
That's why I like
I
it.
see.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Let's see. There we go. I'll share.
Sure.
Let me know when I'm ready to
That's
go.
actually helpful. While you're
So
teeing
you're
that up,
doing that,
Victoria asked if
here, I'll give you a little, for the last speaker, I'll give you a little history, just to remind people, and there's a lot of people who have lived in this community for a super long time, so they probably have just forgotten that they knew this. But the original parcel tax was tied to the fire services. And it was, from the late 80s until Measure D failed in 2017. And it was, the tax it was the same combo of a flat amount per parcel plus so many cents per square foot, exactly tied to the fire contract. So it changed, that 20 cents, now it's 20 cents, but that number changed every year so that the numbers exactly matched up. The reason why bigger houses were bearing more responsibility than smaller houses is that theoretically, for fire services, a bigger house would require more service than a smaller house, theoretically, in the old days. There you
Let
go.
us pray that not a single house in our city ever requires that
Exactly.
extra service.
But that was the thinking.
You need to turn on share.
And here's Derek.
Yeah. Is sharing turned on? No?
You want to work on that while we
You
get
want to
Craig's
pull that up?
comments?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, just confirm we did close the public comment, right?
To the best of my knowledge, there are no additional public speakers in the room and on Zoom.
There are 2 raised hands on
Oh, well,
Zoom.
let's go. Let's bring them in
okay.
while
Yeah.
you
Let's keep going.
figure out sharing.
Okay.
And then my comments are brief, so whatever.
Okay, the first is Blake's iPhone.
He already spoke. Do you have a question? Blake,
You want me to?
You can ask if he has a brief question.
do you have a brief question? Hearing none.
I just have a question. That millennial who spoke, his name is Joe Bill. Will he please run for city council? We need fresh blood. That's my question. Thank you.
Oh, goodness. Okay, who else got?
Next is Darcel.
Darcel, go ahead. Welcome on Zoom.
Coming on.
Maybe.
Okay. Darcel, you're welcome to open your mic.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Perfect. Lee.
Thanks. And I appreciate y'all being here after a very clear vote by the people. So thank you for coming back to the table. And Mayor Kemps, I appreciate your disposition. So.
Thanks.
But I do want to make mention of several things in moving forward. You truly cannot move forward if you're not looking at your own judgment on the city council. That Bay Boy appeal judgment is terrible. We're all taking it in the back for that. That's judgment. We would be right now in the middle of a street mitigation that you guys had tried. We'd be torn up right now if we followed your advice as a city council, minus our newest addition that I have hopes for in listening to. But there's been a lot wrong, and a lot wrong was just a special election on our back again by your judgments. Do no harm should be the credo. Do no harm to our environment. Do no harm to our residents with certain death of a roundabout. Nobody likes to be reminded of that, but that was voted for by 4 of these council members. So this council does need to wise up. Excuse me. That's not polite.
Sorry.
Your mic's on.
That's the judgment of this council to date. It's a 2-0. And I appreciate you here. I do think you will benefit from working with Ms. Myers. I appreciate you stuffing down other residents that are too much. And I will end my time, except to say I was in Bozeman for the last month, Montana. And I had the weight of what this city council was proposing on my back. And I did not appreciate it. This is a beautiful place. I've lived here a long time, but this judgment made me not want to be here. And that's a shame. I'm not leaving, but that's what this city council was producing as an effect of your judgment. So I thank you moving forward, and I hope we can really work together.
We do appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And genuinely hope that you had a beautiful trip. Truly.
Always, always.
Okay, Mayor, there are no one else that has their hand raised at this point.
Okay.
That would mean the conclusion of the public comment period.
All right. I'll be pretty brief. If you could zoom in on my document there, George? To the first paragraph or two.
I thought you said you were going to make a couple of points.
It's quick.
Jeez, this
It's
is
quick. All right, so, I thought a lot, obviously, about how we got here. And, I really wanted to have some core principles to guide me. I'll say this is really just for myself, but essentially understanding how did we get here, and then how do we build a coalition to get to 66%. So, I think the first thing for us to understand is the structural revenue problem that we have in this city. And I think the biggest disconnect, and I knocked on over 100 doors in talking to our neighbors about PF, and I talked to at least another 100 or 200 people just walking about the city. I don't think people really appreciate the structural revenue problem and quite how serious it is. It's not that we are a little bit different than other cities. We are fundamentally different than other cities. Other cities either have an HOA or they have commercial revenue. Palos Verdes Estates stands uniquely alone in not having an HOA with revenue fees and not having commercial revenue. And so as a community, we really need to keep that in mind. I think that's really point number one, because it shapes the whole structure of the conversation. And I actually think, as somebody who's had some pretty difficult conversations in person and online and otherwise, I think it's a big part of why we're at each other's throats at times. I don't think it's that we have, good people and bad people in this community. I don't think that we have people that want to spend huge unnecessary amounts of money and people who don't. I think that we have a structural problem. And if you actually go back in the archives, if you go in the library archives and you look at the debates they were having literally in the 1930s, they were arguing over the local parcel fee, which at the time, I believe, if I remember correctly, was $1 per $100. It was 1%, and it was assessed by the HOA. So, it's a really interesting thing, but it's been going on in our community for 100 years. Point number two is we have to pass something in November. I don't know. I guess we could debate the merits of doing a special election after that, but it will cost us at a minimum several $100,000. And I really don't think we want to put our city or our police or ourselves through a failure in November. So my goal, and I think all of my colleagues share the goal, and I think everyone in this room shares the goal, is let's figure out how to pass something in November. And then number three, I don't support making drastic cuts or doing anything else that would destabilize our city government between now and November. And one of the things that immediately pops into our mind when we lose PF is, well, wait a minute, now we've got a huge budget gap. We've got a multi-million, $8-9 million budget gap staring us in the face for the next fiscal year. Is it prudent to keep spending money? I think we answer that question in November if something fails in November. I think if we make major cuts between now and November, we destabilize the city. I think that we hurt services, we hurt morale. I don't think that that's a good idea, at least for the next few months, until we see where this is going. Number four, the parcel tax must appeal to 66% of PVE voters. It should be simple, it should be understandable. Obviously PF didn't pass that test. Number five, exotic solutions. I've had a lot of people come up to me and talk about parking meters, creating a charter city, even more exotic stuff, building hotels, finding other ways to grab revenue so that it doesn't all have to come out of our own pockets. And, these people are onto something, right? Because let's go back to number one. We have a structural revenue problem. So they're trying to solve the structural revenue problem. That's smart. The problem with these ideas is that they either take years to get approval, to build, to implement, and see your first dollar, for some of them, or they require approvals from Coastal Commission, or parking meters along the coast almost certainly would require approval of the Coastal Commission, for example, right? So there's all these roadblocks that we have as a government entity, where even if we could get together as a community and agree that they're good ideas, it could take years before we see our first dollar. So we have to be realistic about those exotic solutions, even if they're viable in the long run. And some of them are, and some of them aren't, frankly, right? Number 6, I think that serious parcel tax proposals and what we should try to coalesce around over the next 30 days need to include at least a small amount of money for emergencies, contingencies, and urgent projects. We have things like stormwater pipes that fail and blow out driveways and hillsides. We have the city's accounting system running on basically 20-year-old servers. We have certain things that are facing us as a city that I don't know that we can go another year before we have a major problem with some of them. And so, I support something streamlined and small and efficient, but we've got to have a little bit of buffer in there to address at least some of those items before they absolutely fall apart. I'm not opposed to a proposal that allocates a fraction of the money to pay down the city's pension debt. I think that paying down the pension debt, I don't claim to be the absolute expert on it, but everything I've read about it is it'll be with us for at least a couple of decades if we don't start paying it down more aggressively. And every year we pay essentially a debt service on it that is actually growing and not getting smaller. So it makes sense to me to try to pay some of that down. I don't know that I would consider it our absolute highest priority personally, but I certainly think it's an important priority, and I would hope that we could get to it. And then finally, we've actually had a few wins in the past several months, couple of years, and I hope that we don't give those up. I think a couple of our most important wins are additional weed abatement for fire safety. I think that we saw what happened in the Palisades, and I think that weed abatement we've realized is one of the absolute most important things that we do in this city. I think we should actually do more of it, not less, but I certainly think we should at least hold steady. And then the use of herbicide. I think that the amount of herbicide that we were using previously was irresponsible. It was blanketing our city. I think that we've reduced it by about 85% with our most recent directions to the city staff, and I would really like to maintain that. And it does cost more money to use less herbicide, but I think that it's the right thing to do. I think it's the right thing for our children. I think it's the right thing for our pets and for ourselves. And so I hope that as we think about the overall structure of all of this, that we don't give up some of those wins because we have such an incredibly tight budget that we can't even breathe. So those are my core principles, and I hope that we're able to achieve most or all of them. I look forward to collaborating with the other council members. I look forward to collaborating with members of the community. I think we've heard some good ideas. I think we've heard some ideas that are good but would take too long to implement. And I think that we've heard some ideas that would be harder to build a coalition around, but I'm open to talking about any of them.
Nice job. Craig?
Hello. Yes. Well, that was all wonderful information. The feedback we received, I think, was very valuable. You will never find me on Nextdoor, so very few opportunities to hear me speak. I don't often try to take over the mic on the dais. To me, it was very simple from the very beginning, and with the hard work that was done by the council and David and his team that helped. To me, 16.2 wasn't even enough. 17.5 was the number that we talked about when we actually were in control of the process back in the town halls. I was the one who said, it's more than 17.5, it's probably more than 20. Everything I've done, and most of the people that I surround myself with and the residents in this community are excelling in everything they do and the pride in their homes and their communities, et cetera. And to me, it made no sense that we went from Measure D to Measure E without enough money, and we didn't put a COLA on it. So shame on us. And I said at the time, I'm not afraid to say what I think the city needs to run. I don't, why wouldn't you say the right number? Now, whether you can get it, obviously we didn't, but I think we didn't get it for the wrong reasons. A lot of people in the community trust me and they trusted me. All of a sudden, I'm on the council, and there's a trust issue. Now, maybe it was the way it was packaged and the fact that the Citizens Initiative legal requirements took us out of the equation, and we couldn't put those brackets around the things that we said we were going to do, and we couldn't put brackets around the pension, et cetera, et cetera. So it all played out in the community itself, right? Unfortunately. But this is Groundhog Day, and we are in a situation where we need 17.5 or more, and we're in a position right now where we've got 42% of the community that's willing to pay 16.2, whatever that number is for their home, and we need the other 60 to come together and give us a number so we can blend it and say, what can we use or what can we do moving forward? We've got three options on the table, 8.7, 9.7, or 10.7. You tell us, right? Tonight, I'll say 10.7 because it's as close to the 17.5, and it's responsible to run this place long term. So it's a revenue problem. If we get the revenue that we need, this place will be glorious. To Derek's point, we've been doing this for 100 years, right? I'm not going to do it for 100 years, right? None of us are, and we got to solve the problem. We are in a situation, as you all know, where this is Russian roulette. If this doesn't pass in November, and it doesn't pass beyond that, we fall off the cliff. And that is on us as a collective community. So let's get to a number. Let's move forward. 10.7 isn't enough, but it's the number that I'm willing to live with to move forward. So that's basically my comments.
You gave a number. You're braver than I am.
I was going to say, it's kind of interesting to say what the numbers before we've had a discussion of the numbers, so that's
Someone
interesting.
had to start, though.
That's
I like
true.
it.
So, and I'm
Stakes
just
in
not
the
going to say
ground
much
aren't bad.
because it's, oh my gosh, 8:30. But, so just quick, Measure PF was a very long-term strategic view. It is something that would have taken the city for not only operating, but all of the other, pension, infrastructure, all, I think David said that, we've commissioned, we have a whole file cabinet now that everything, the file cabinet's drawer is probably going to get closed for a while, of what's the current assessment of our roads, our sewers, our storm drains. What's it going to cost? I got to kick in this money in years 1, 2, and 3, and this is how much we need to pay for the next 10 years to keep it. Okay, we have all of that. Okay, Measure PF and that $16 million probably didn't even pay for all of that, but that was a long-term strategic view that set the city up 10, 12 years into the future. Okay, voters were clear. They do not want to fund that. All right, so now we need to shift gears. We need to take a tactical approach. And we have to take a tactical approach to solve an operational issue, not a long-term strategic view of the city. And it is kind of, when you said Groundhog Day all over again, sorry, this is Measure E 2.0. Clog, take the dam, stick your fingers in the holes in the dam, and figure out how to move forward. And that's the exercise tonight, I believe. And let's get to work.
That's right. Yeah.
10.7.
Were you listening?
Let's go back and look at the real costs.
Also,
No.
I don't, David, I don't think anybody needs to be lectured about what the real cost is. Let me hit the PF thing for a second because I didn't make any comments and I don't want to dwell on it anymore. Let me answer my own version of what I was thinking through and was legally restricted from not being able to say. In my head, I was thinking 4 million capital, and that had, let's not get political, but I'm just going to say it, that had absolutely nothing to do with building a fire station. But I'm not trying to be divisive. So it was 4 million capital, and for me that was sewers, storm drains, if putting it towards repairs in this building, whatever else, fine. So that's that piece. Roads, in addition to restricted funds that are available. In my head, I had 1.3 million towards pensions. I think Desiree, in her proposal, she has a 6-year proposal for 2.4 million against pensions to recover the pension debt down to a $300,000 number. I was not being that aggressive even with PF. Beyond that, it was, funding the remaining services of the city, and then the residents didn't want that freed up. So I get it. I respect it. I'm good. The question, I think, is what knowing all of the parameters around all of this, what are the residents comfortable funding? And in this scenario, by the way, these numbers came up bottom up instead of top down. I think PF was really sort of top down. These are all the things that we need, and we're gonna do it, right? The reverse look at it is to say, okay, people want to fund the police department. So we, Carrie and I and Derek, in talking through it, looked at it and said, well, okay, what's the baseline? 8.7. $8.7 million is the present baseline in the fiscal year for the police department. And we said, well, if we're going to poll this, and let me be clear, none of us want a 17-question, 17 miles deep, $25,000 pollster to ask our residents what they want so they can be manipulated. That ain't the point. The point is, let's get to the actual real number that we're all willing to support. So we immediately, from the baseline, said, pensions and capital, what are we going to do? Said, let's add $1 million to each number, and then let's ask the residents. The professionals, I say that in quotes, and this happened during Measure E, the professionals say two things. One, don't put an escalator in it because it won't pass. I'm sorry, that's asinine. I'm saying that as your resident. I'm saying that as your collaborative neighbor. If you don't keep up with inflation, we're screwed all over again. So I think that's nuts. Number two, they say, don't mention two words or the measure will fail. Pension or debt? Everybody that knows me knows where my focus is. I think that's asinine. So, sorry, Victoria. We disagree. So what we came up with, and I'm open to whatever we want to poll or talk through, what we came up with was 8.7 baseline, 9.7 and 10.7, and figure out how we spread that, and then we get into the conversation about the base number and the rate, and how we come up with how we end up with those numbers. Derek and I started playing with that a little bit, but we didn't finish that out. I think myself, there's a sensitivity of getting the base rate over $500, and people say, wait a minute. And then from there,
Cost per parcel?
yes. And then from there, where'd we end up, 39 cents or something?
It was $495 per parcel and a 38 or 39 cents.
And that ended up in the 9 million something range.
That's
So,
right.
so you basically tweak the volume dials on both of those to get to the number that you want to achieve.
I mean, should we talk about, if you have a number you're trying to achieve, should we talk about just backing into then a price per parcel and not a variable? That's come up more than once.
I think that's
Only one person
regressive.
raised their hand.
That did not
Well, that's true.
in the room. You want to put that on a,
That's
on
true,
a,
that's
on
true,
a quick
that's true.
computerized poll,
But you still
great.
have the larger houses pay, I always, whenever we pay our property taxes, I think my friend who has a house that's way bigger than mine.
Well, that's would be a regressive tax, which I don't think would be very popular with most of the residents in the community.
Yeah, I'm sorry, David, say that again.
That would be a regressive
A
tax.
regressive tax.
More regressive by making
Yeah,
it just
by
flat across
making
the
it a
parcel.
flat rate across.
There you go. Well, we talked about it.
I think the other thing that I would hitchhike on to the mayor's comments is we can pick a lower number, the 10, 7, or 12, or 6, or whatever you want to, but we have to realistically look at the services that we're not going to be able to fund with those funding levels. And that's where the rubber's going to hit the road, is if you pick a number of, use your 10.7, which I personally think is too low right now, as far as what the city needs. Any money's going into infrastructure in building back what we're going to need to do to prevent catastrophes in our community is going to be lost. I mean, we've got to have excess money, excess revenue over expenses to put into the reserve accounts in order to be able to fund emergency repairs, replacement, and whatever.
So
But David, we put that in front of the community, and the community.
In the
voted
short
no.
term.
But the
In the
community
short
has to
term.
understand that that's
Well,
what they're going to be.
They understand.
Dave said
very
no.
well.
They're going to be
Said
faced
no.
with critical
They
issues.
understand.
We might. Look, I mean, the risk here.
Sorry, Martin, did I interrupt?
Mr. McGowan's right about one thing, which is the risk here is, yeah, we could have a really bad earthquake and this building could be compromised, or our sewer system could be, overwhelmed in a really bad year.
Or the water problem in Malaga Cove.
But
That's gone. I'm sorry.
Going back to the core principles, we have to pass a tax in November. We have to build a coalition around 66%. I agree with you. 8 million, 9 million, 10 million, none of that meets our city's needs, but we cannot risk losing in November, in my opinion.
I will fully agree with that. My only comment is that the residents need to understand that it will not meet all the needs.
Some will understand and some won't care, frankly.
Maybe some won't.
And some just go to the polls and check a box. But the point is, we need to take. Look, I agree with you that it would be wonderful if we could send out a newsletter to every house in the city and every single person would read it and every person would believe it. But,
and it's not going to happen.
we've done our best to get as close to that as possible, and it didn't work.
Right.
So now we have to assess the position, reconfigure, and get to something that will actually pass in November. I personally think something closer to 9 million is a safe number.
Let's not guess this time.
I agree. We shouldn't guess. We should do a poll.
We need to.
But it's not.
Yeah, that was an
a
agenda item. Should
giant,
we talk about the
big
survey thing? I was a little unclear on what that was. I mean, were you thinking like Survey Monkey?
Yes.
Really? Okay. So
granted,
down and dirty. And who's going to write this thing?
Our communication consultants will help
Okay.
write it. We can assign, there's discussion about an ad hoc, so we don't have to sit in a Brown Act meeting and figure it out. We can talk about who can do that and who's available to do that. There's also, in addition to this room, the opportunity to have some communication and collaboration with outside parties, whether they're here tonight or not, in formulating and coming up with this and running through ideas that we think will stick. And I'm going to say, maybe up here, the unpopular opinion. This council better damn well get on the same page as the no group, or you're not getting 66%. Sorry, that's it.
No, it's true. You're right.
So do it.
We have to build a coalition. Getting to 66%, it's hard to get 66% of Americans to agree that the sky is blue these days,
Let's go outside.
Yeah, exactly. So getting to 66% is tough.
Sure.
And it needs to be, we can't aim too high, and we need to build a coalition. And we don't have time for exotic solutions. I mean, it's got to be.
But we also can't.
Something.
We can't do a measure, pick 5 million out of the air because some
Right.
Sorry to someone who's in the room. I'm not picking on you. We can't take the word of a consultant and say, that was Betty, yeah. You can't take the word of a consultant that says,
yeah,
you need
pick
to
a
be
number out of
skittish,
the
you need
air.
to be
Right.
scared. So in our professional opinion, you need to screw yourself up for the next several years, right? No, ask the folks. Let them give you the answer and whatever the most
All
popular
right, so back to
number
this
is, there
survey.
it is.
Sorry, can we talk about this survey?
Yeah.
Carrie, city manager, sir? Can you tell us what your vision is for this survey?
I'd love to.
Before 9 o'clock.
I talk less than Craig. Yeah, I think we started with the experts and this and whatever, all the different ways to ask questions. And I think in the end, we just thought it's just disingenuous and it's probably a waste of money. It's been an amazing meeting to be a part of. I think it's real simple. I laid it out in the PowerPoint. 8797 or 107. The community spoke loudly that they want to know what the excess money. I'm trying to be as transparent as I possibly can to identify what the excess money would be. It's really tough, to direct how that money gets spent because lots of different things happen. So I think if I get a vote, I would test 8797 107. I would test an escalator, and I would ask about a level of pension buy down.
Meaning the amount.
The amount. And that's it. and make it simple. I think I would, whatever we come, I encourage everybody to take it only once. We have some tools in there that are not foolproof, and work with the subcommittee to package it all together, have some conversations out there in the community, and then come back probably the first meeting in July with a recommendation. And then that'll give us time to tighten it up for the second meeting in July.
So
That's our reality.
So the onus will be on people to come in to something on the city website and take the survey, or we're going to push the survey out to people?
We can send it out through our emails. We can send it out through all of our social media. It'll sit on the website. If the council would like to spend some money, we could send a postcard. We could.
Yeah, how do people, okay.
Well, I would say, I think the starting point.
Like, how are people even going to know it's out
Yeah, I
there?
think we start with email blasts and with social media, and you know, we'll have Craig put it on Nextdoor.
I knew that. I was waiting to hear you were going to put it on next
Just once.
He can do that. I'm done.
You know, and I think there's you know, from what I've heard that I hope both sides take it. I hope everybody comes together and just tells us what's going to work. I'd like to add one more thing. You know, I heard a lot tonight about efficiencies and all these different things. I heard a lot about destabilizing the staff, and that's a real thing. That is a real thing. You on Zoom, if you can hear me, it is a real thing. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. Part of the problem is the turnover at my position and other positions here in the city. I've heard a lot of people say, why do we have two city managers? I will tell you all, you are lucky to have me and George here right now. Not me, you're lucky to have George, okay? We are working end to end to do our job to bring this city forward, okay? If you've ever had a chance to talk to us or work with us, I think that people are seeing a change. And if you want to destabilize that and take a step back, don't pass something. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm very passionate about this. I'm very, very passionate about this, and I have very little sleep in me right now. The other thing I'd like to say is if we free up, I said it earlier at the beginning of this conversation, free up a little breathing room, okay? Free up a little breathing room. Mayor Kemp said it. Do we spend, $80,000 on an analyst so that we don't have to outsource legally required PRAs? And it's not directed at one. There are some from these robot iBots out there that are asking for the most ridiculous thing. This takes an incredible amount of time. It's not a resident. It's law firms out there looking to sue us. Maybe I'll start posting these on the website, except I don't have the resources to do that, but maybe I will. Listen, do you want me working on it? Do you want, they're very complicated. So these are the realities. But if we can free up a little money and get a little breathing room and get us out of this conversation, there are other efficiencies we can gain. It took us 7 months to get to the goats. It cost time and money to build that together. I know it seems easy, but it was not easy. It was not easy, but we did it. It took us 5 months to figure out how to reduce herbicides in here. Mayor Pro Tem Mazzaro said, put out an RFP on on landscaping. Fantastic, right? Be careful what you wish for, though, because it could come in more, and we're going to spend a lot of money to get there. So if I can get a little breathing room and I can get a few resources, there are tricks in the trade that we can do. We can hire a consulting firm for $100,000 that will manage all of our grant applications.
Grants,
The easiest thing that I always hear in my 25 years of doing this is if you have a funding problem, well, get a grant for that. Guys, I don't know how to break the news to you. You're not very attractive to the grants out there. Go ahead and look at these grants and read what they're looking for and read the demographics and what they're looking for. We're not very attractive to those. And on the other side, grant reporting is arduous. Thank you, Chief. It is arduous. But there are
handcuffs included.
There's firms out there. It's 100, little over 100,000. Take a shot at it. I'm all in. I'm all in on that. But I need a little bit of resources.
So back to the survey.
Sorry, I got going.
You think?
Yeah.
So
That was a good one. That was good.
I answered the survey question.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm wondering if we shouldn't include on the survey, because you said you want to put, so it's not open-ended, what will you support? It's, would you support this? Would you support this? Would you support this? And then, I'm wondering if we should include a question on a CPI on an annual CPI adjustment. I didn't hear you say that. Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you say that. Yep. Yeah, and it might, I have opinions on that too.
I could also be convinced to go for 8.7 and.
Just a question.
Well, that's what I was headed is, I think if you're going to put a CPI, if you have a smaller number with a CPI adjustment, that seems reasonable. I think that, personally, an issue with PF was a big number with then and not even a CPI, it was just a flat number, which could be high or could be low, given the year, who knows? And maybe it's a CPI adjustment with a cap. That's what we used to have in Measure D, but the problem was nobody understood it and it made them nuts. So that's why one of the reasons Measure D failed, I can tell you. Anyway, that was on there. And then do we test on the sun? I don't know if the sunset is really that sensitive of an issue to people, as long as there is one.
Yeah, I mean, it realistically probably has to be no more than 6 years, which is the next
that's what I would say.
presidential election.
That's what I would say. But I don't know if you have to test that.
I don't know that we need to
I don't
test
think
that.
people had an issue with the 10 years
and the
or 12.
smaller it is, the
it's
less
more that you just want to have an opportunity, as would I, want to have an opportunity to revisit.
This poor city is going to go through this every 7 or 8, 9 years.
That's the problem.
Probably
with the 6 years.
It's
I mean,
probably
it's
a
just-
6-year, I mean, it's probably a
4 years,
6-year
you got to do it
process.
again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So when are you thinking this thing's going to go out? So our consultant's going to write this? I guess, okay. So when we did the survey, the polling that we did, the 2 that we did before.
Could you put those up so that the Zoom and the audience that's left can see it, just so they see the results?
The what?
You were going to
The
show
previous
the poll
results.
I mean, sure.
1 second.
I will say we do get, and I'm just thinking back over the last 10 years since I've been involved in the city, when we do these things, we get a high participation rate. I mean, I know we always have the consultants say, gee, I don't usually have cities with this much. So it's in our best interest to make sure. I'm a little nervous about that, relying on people coming in to take the survey as opposed to pushing out the survey.
It's not a random.
So
It's not.
I just think we have to think about that. How to make sure that we get, that we get it. I mean,
You all take the
my
survey.
personal email distribution list is 7,000 people. So, I mean,
Send it out.
send it out. I mean, 7,000 out of the 10,000 that live
To
here.
answer your question, I'd like to get it out as early as next week. It's part of the reason I'm asking for an ad hoc committee so that I can work with people to streamline this and get it going. The other alternative is I sit down with the consultant and I write it. And if you guys want to review it, I'd have to bring it back at a regularly scheduled council meeting, or I just put it out. So my preference, I had the same preference 2 years ago. It's easier to work with 2 that are been appointed rather than receiving input from 5.
Yeah. I
So
think
are
we're
we-
past that. That doesn't work. The ad hocs, ad hocs don't work. If you want to have an ad hoc with the specific task of writing a survey and then the ad hoc is disbanded the day after the survey goes out, maybe. But, personally, I think I put a lot of faith in the communications consultant that we have. He's done an excellent job for us. We pay him to do a job. Let him do the job.
So, Councilmember Lozzi, I think I generally kind of agree with you that by the time we impanel an ad hoc, we're practically done with our runway and how much time do we have to get this right. But I will just raise one point for consideration for completeness of all of our thoughts here, which is we do have what I will call a relatively organized opposition group to PF that built their own coalition and have relatively identifiable leaders. And I think the idea that Mayor Kempes and I had was to put to the council for discussion the idea of appointing an ad hoc to go out into the community to meet with stakeholders, to understand their positions, and to understand if we could build a broader coalition, for lack of a better term. You know, I don't know, right? You know, I don't know if they're you know, I don't know if that's the right
let me throw this out there.
exact thing to do, but it's an option.
We run the survey. Survey comes back. I'm going to pick the middle number. They say, oh, 9.7, and yeah, we'll put up with pension debt, but we're only going to give you, again, I'm making it up, $300,000. So, you know, the rest we want dedicated to police, and, you know, deal with your other.
You think you're going to get that in the survey? You're saying you're going to get that information from the survey?
Well, the survey is going to have 8.7, 9.7, 10.7, and there was a question about what level of pension debt you're comfortable. What'd you say?
Oh, are you level?
Are you okay?
Are you willing to
Are
support?
you willing to carve off $1 million and put it into
Okay.
pensions, or you know, yeah.
Someone has to say, hey, you group of large people that created this huge tax, you good with this? Yeah, we don't like it, but it's okay. Okay, good. Hey, you guys that didn't like it, you okay with this? Yeah, we don't like it, but we're okay. Okay, good, let's go. Right? If we don't know that, if you're comfortable with just the survey alone and just picking off the answers and throwing it on the ballot, if that's enough, okay. But it doesn't have to be me. But I'd love to know that we went through that exercise legally and had some good feedback and strength in the community that, wow, we wanted it to be council-led. We really appreciate that you did it. We don't like it, but you know, we're good. Let's compromise, get on with it. And guess what? We just got 85% of the vote.
Great idea.
Somebody's got to do that. Doesn't have to be me.
I'd be willing to step up and do it.
Well, I would say,
I mean, I'm in. Doesn't have to be me.
oh,
Oh, got a vote of no confidence from Victoria.
no, it's not that.
I'm messing with you.
It's
I'm
just that
messing with you.
where we've come in the last 3 months, that the tension and the battling and the battling over next door, which is not appropriate, and it just then you think that somehow that's going to get smoothed over by people who've been fighting for the last 3
Well,
months.
let me add something.
So.
I think that let's get out of next door and whatever everybody's feelings are about that. Forget it. I think that if we as a council, as we have done tonight, and I'm happy to be in the position to have led it, I think that if we come together and say to our very intelligent, well-educated resident base, you've heard us, you understand what the challenges are, you know what we're going to give up by not having a larger number, but we'd like your support in supporting the largest number that was pulled, whatever that is. And in conjunction, we realize that we can't pay $3 million down against pension debt, but we seem to think that this number might work. And by the way, that's not going to pay it off, but we're trying to find a compromise in the balance here. Do we think that's achievable at the highest possible percent?
Also-
I don't want to guess
Right.
what November is going to say.
Also, there was an opportunity for that number to come forth in a report that was not presented to us. So someone has to go in and say, okay, let me show you mine, you show me yours at some point, right?
Right. Now, we technically don't need an ad hoc to do that, right? I mean, Mayor Kemps can talk to folks. Any one of us can talk to folks. We could come back to a meeting in the future and say, well, I talked to this person and I talked to that person and they said yes and they said no and blah, 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 blah. So we don't need an ad hoc to do it. I think, and for the record, even if we had an ad hoc, I mean, you can still go talk to John and you can talk to Bob and so forth and so on. But an ad hoc would, if we want to, provide a little more formality to that structure. Personally, I could go either way on it. I don't think it's strictly necessary to get across the finish line, but it could provide more structure in trying to have these conversations.
My observation and experience over the years, regardless of what the issue is ad hocs take longer, and we don't have longer.
That's true.
And it is because you kind of got to go do your thing, then you got to come back, I mean, it slows
Report
things
out,
down.
yeah.
And frankly, I mean, the five of us, we are elected, I was going to say paid. Nope.
You are paid $0.
Paid zero.
You are paid.
But we are elected to figure out what people are thinking, what's the pulse, and let's, okay, where's the center of the bell curve? And we have to, for the next month and a half, the five of us have to operate as one body and keep marching forward. I mean, I would say we need a weekly special meeting between now and the end of July, because we got to nail this down as a fivesome. If we start going off,
let me just, I don't disagree
nothing
with-
passes in November if we are not united.
I don't disagree with anything you just said. There are travel considerations we do have soon. But he's gone
Dave,
for
thoughts?
a while, then I'm gone for a while, then, so that we've got a travel issue.
Yeah. Do you have thoughts on an ad hoc, Dave?
I can go either way. I don't know that the ad hoc adds a lot right now. I think we just go ahead and get the survey done and get the results back, and
Come together, special meeting, that's fine.
we'll have to wrestle with the numbers and see what it means to the city. But I think we have to be able to be transparent with our residents that if whatever number we pick, this is what they're going to get and what they're not going to get.
Well, I would just caution that, it sounds like we're together on, many, many issues, but giving direction to staff, if we start all giving direction, we're going to slow things down if we're not all on the same page on certain issues. So we have to be as clear as
I think we're on the same page to do a survey, right?
Yes.
That's the
Now.
first step,
Right.
right?
But if it starts getting out of control,
What's out of control?
What's out of control? What, give an
We
example.
can't do this outside of a public meeting.
Yeah.
We're not individually talking to staff giving direction. So what?
Well, he's saying an ad hoc would, right?
well, no, just things are going to come up between now and next week or whenever, and how many, who's normally going to be on point for any of it? We're going to give you direction to do the survey. You're on your own. Is that how it works?
It's either that, or if an ad hoc doesn't exist, it's mayor pro tem, whoever those people are.
That's fair.
It's not assigned.
That's fair.
Well, I think we're telling him to work with the communications consultant to get a survey out the door for the
I mean, I
things that
think
we
we've
just
got
agreed
the
need to be on.
structure pretty clearly down pat on the survey, right? It's
Things he mentioned.
8-7, 9-7, 10-7. It's, do you want to carve off for the pensions? It's, do you want an escalator? There's one more thing.
There was one more thing I can't think what it was. What was it? The pension.
Inflation.
So let's just
escalator, yeah.
hypothetically
Anyway,
say,
okay.
let's just hypothetically say that,
What term?
let's hypothetically say that 70% of the people, I'm dreaming, say, yeah, I want to pay down pension debt.
You are dreaming.
You're hallucinating.
You're hallucinating.
Well, allow me to hallucinate. I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
I've earned-
Actually, at this point, that probably.
I've earned it for my no pay. Okay? Let's just hypothetically hallucinate. It's my hallucination that 70% of the people would say, yeah, we don't.
I would say that's an awfully tight margin.
Well, anyway, let him
If you
finish
go-
his.
But
let him
go on,
finish
but
his
go on.
sentence.
Yeah, go on.
My question is, how much? Because if you're asking me, do I want to pay, if I'm Joe resident and I'm going to go back to the role where I don't know a lot about this, and I think I might have enjoyed that moment. And you ask me, we want to pay our debts down. How much are you comfortable with?
Well, I think we should, to be fair, I thought we were going to leave tonight's meeting with a number in mind to
Well, I
put
don't
on the
know.
survey. But, I mean, maybe not. I mean.
It depends on whether your goal, everybody thinks I'm hallucinating, so. But in the event that I'm not hallucinating, it depends on whether your goal is to keep the debt level or it's to aggressively pay it down to relieve the UAL. That's the question.
May I make a suggestion?
You may. You should.
In the 8-7, 9-7, 10-7, we very high level documented the extra money, for lack of a better word.
You need to come up with a better term.
I know. Well, yeah.
But yes, the amount over the
I was just
operational.
going to say, the amount of pay down is dependent
Yeah.
upon whether you're at
That's
8,
right.
7,
So
9,
what
7,
my-
or 10, 7.
My suggestion would be, for consideration, simply ask the question. Would you want a portion of this to go towards pension pay down?
And to be restricted as such.
And we can do that. We can write that into the message.
without specifying a million
I
or
mean,
1.2 or 1.900.
We could,
or,
my just gut opinion right now is trying to figure out that number is not quite as important as those three numbers. So literally, do you want language written in there? We can bring that back and you can debate that at that first meeting in July.
This is important to some people.
I agree,
So
but I know,
to
I
get
just,
office is a bad idea, to have something.
so you're supporting my recommendation?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, and get a better word than the
Let it
extra
go
money.
unsaid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it has to be reflected somehow.
This is a waste of
I'm
money.
sorry, but I'm going to just tell you what the campaign is against this if it's not in it. The campaign against it is going to say, kicking the can down the road, extending the debt life, not relieving, not solving the problem, not dealing with fiscal sustainability. That's the campaign against it.
Well, I hope that the.
Well, if they wanted to accomplish all of those things, then they should have voted for the measure that
Their
had a
answer
10-year
to-
strategic plan.
Their answer to you is that you should have designated those funds.
So I will just say that I hope that the campaign would take the poll and wherever the poll comes, support the passage of this, because the alternative.
I pray for
Here's a thought. Here's a thought.
Frozen up
If
on
we're
$1
building
million
an old,
sorts
poll,
of
I just had a thought. If we're building our own poll, we have flexibility. So we could actually have a question that says, do you support a portion of the money to be used for pensions? And then a second question, right?
they say yes, then-
If they say yes, write in how much, and then we take the average. If the average is,
Well, that would
you know.
assume people understand what the total nut is and what the normal annual.
well, we don't.
I mean, because.
we don't need them to understand. We need them to vote yes.
You have to educate.
Yeah, you can't say, oh, how much are you willing to pay on your credit card bill? Okay, well, you have to tell me how much the bill is.
Well, all right. I mean, it's just an idea. It was just a thought.
No, it is. I liked
a
the
good
first
idea.
half. I liked the first half. Are you willing to support that? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, because, we hire consultants to advise us, and then we don't listen to them over and over again.
That is true. You're right.
And taking it right out of before any of this started, people do not vote to tax themselves to pay for pensions or buildings.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can put that little number in there.
People in this city,
Are different.
some portion of people in this city,
Some portion,
put me in that club for the purpose
Sure.
of this discussion,
sure.
are angry that that debt has not more aggressively been addressed. And some portion of those people that were passionate and very successfully killed this last measure are at risk of doing it again if this is not addressed. I'm sorry.
I disagree
And so
with you,
I don't
but I
care-
appreciate your perspective.
I don't care.
There's also a population that
I
doesn't
don't
believe in
I'm gonna-
paying down the debt.
I get
Correct.
it. I get it. Let me finish. You risk doing it again. I'm on record.
Yeah. I agree with the mayor that there is a fairly large, relatively identifiable coalition of people for whom paying down the pension debt is one of their biggest causes. It is also true that statistically speaking, using those words will lead to a ballot measure failing in the state of California.
Possibly.
Over and over and over again. I do believe that Palos Verdes Estates is not representative. I think that it is unusual to have a coalition of people that care this passionately about this issue.
Let's get the answer in the poll.
But if we ask the question in the poll, then they can answer it.
Yes or no.
And,
Should just be yes or
and,
no.
You know,
And let's
They-
be
they can
clear, I'm
answer
not
the
threatening to
question.
not support it. I will support it unconditionally. That's where we are. But I think this is an important topic.
yeah.
Agreed.
We can also run another poll, right? I mean, if we get feedback, we can put out another.
No.
I mean,
Not really.
No. Look at the timeline.
Take your calendar out.
All right, okay.
But
All right,
theoretically.
I'm just thinking out loud, but. okay.
No,
All right.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'd be happy if
Can we
we
bring
just
this
went
to a
back to the
closure then?
minimum of our pension policy, which is send $250,000 a year. At 8.7, that's what we'll be doing. We'll go back to our minimum pension funding policy and better than today, which is 0.
Gary, do you have what you need?
Listen,
I got it.
All right.
Oh, sorry, Martin. Go.
The pension cost is a non-productive expense to us.
Yep.
So every minute that it's unpaid is non-productive expense.
Yeah, it's like bad credit card debt, essentially.
And nobody cares?
No, I think people care.
If we're not there, there would be a lot more for doing the business.
I think people care, but I think that Mr. McGowan is right, that there are some people that don't like the idea of paying it off.
Yep.
We have heard from the GovInvest folks that if we do nothing, it will eventually be paid off. You know,
Cry me a river and prove
it's
that one.
debatable, but that's what the official scientists tell us about it. On the other end of the spectrum, we have a very active group that wants to pay it off. I think we put it on the survey.
Put it on. It's fine.
And, you know, yeah. Okay. So I think we have.
All right, so we're going to run the survey. He's going to develop the survey, do it with the consultants, run the survey, get the results. We'll hold another, I assume.
Are we going to pick a date?
Another special meeting. Well, do we need?
Yeah, give me some time.
Yeah, we need the survey. We need the results. We don't know that timing before we can do this.
And I ask and I encourage any council member that's going to be traveling now that we perfected Zoom again to be willing to participate remotely.
Yeah. And we have another regular meeting coming up on the 24th?
23rd.
23rd, okay.
I should have some information by then.
I was going to say, so will we have an agenda item on the 23rd to kind of update?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Michael,
So that's in 2 weeks.
Are we allowed to ask a question of the folks in the room?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So thank you all for those in the room. I just have one final
Let's find
question.
out.
Why, are you still here?
Was this helpful to all of you? To any of you? Some of you? All right. Well, thank you.
Remaining people.
And
You guys
let
get
me-
to decide.
Let me try another one for those that are left. Just this is your payment for hanging out so long.
Oh, no.
Would another special meeting when we have the survey results and collaborating be helpful to you? All right.
Yeah.
Where did everybody go?
Virginia, what? Sorry.
This is excellent.
Great.
Very clear, and goes along with the survey, so people can make some judgments.
Awesome.
See you on next door.
See you on next door.
Done?
You're going to create an account new? Yeah. Thank you all for coming. We're grateful. I took notes on all your feedback. Have a wonderful night.
Great.
We are adjourned.
Okey-dokey.